Right, hello everyone. Once again, as you can see, I am also not Carl. Carl's been having a bit of precious family time at the moment, but I kind of badgered him into doing this because I wanted to talk about the championship, and I'm sure the person who is with me, given that we played against each other, is going to be very, very keen to talk about his side's prospects. So let's bring him in. Here he is, Annie. Just ignore the fact we spoke for about a minute off camera, but for on camera, how are you doing? Both football and non-football. I imagine the form is going to be pretty good right now.
It's quite good. It's great.
Harmony.
It's exactly perfect harmony. Yeah, it's going great, and especially off. I was going to say the weekend, but
Start of
Friday.
the weekend.
It's kind of the week. I'd say it's. I'd say Friday 5 p.m. after is probably the weekend, but the game started at 3 o'clock. So is
I
it
was
the
going to say
weekend?
that doesn't quite work.
No. So I'm not going to have this discussion now, but that's kind of partly the weekend. Partly the
Was it a good
weekend.
Friday? Well, it was a good Friday for you then.
It was a great Friday. It was a
There you go.
fantastic
Hey,
Friday.
not even just good; it was great.
It was a great Friday.
No,
And
that's
yeah,
fair enough. I don't know if it's come across on camera, but obviously, as you know, and everyone else knows, I was away with me and my cousin in Egypt for a week, and I don't know whether I've got a tan on my face or not. Looks like if I
a
do, it
little bit
looks.
more red than normal.
No, that's all right then. At least I look less like a vampire. But that's always a good starting point. Um, but yeah, obviously, I can't remember if there was a review show last week. I don't think there was. But either way, there is one now. So, and hey, who knows? We'll wait and see if me and Annie do more content if we get each other in the playoffs, because that's how it's currently going to stand. But we'll get onto our game practically at the end. But if it's all right with you, I think we'll start with the automatic promotion race, because that is as the season is getting towards a conclusion, it looks like the top two race is getting towards a conclusion. And since I was last on, which I believe was 2 weeks ago, for a race that looked extremely close, it suddenly doesn't look as close anymore. But nevertheless, all three teams in the top three won. So where should let's start? Let's try and go in a bit of chronological order here. So the first of the three sides to play was Burnley. They went to Vicarage Road on Friday at 3 o'clock in a game that weirdly Watford decide a couple Kambeye and Sissoko decided they fancied an early bath and get themselves sent off, which was a strange old game. But
The Sissoko one is just madness.
oh, it's
It is just
ridiculous, isn't it?
madness. It's so stupid, especially for a player. Sorry, especially for a player of his experience and caliber and the top level he's played at with Newcastle, with Spurs, with Watford in the Premier League. It is just complete and utter brain dead. It is so stupid. Sorry.
No, it is. I mean, I'll quickly touch on the game because, to be fair, from what I did see, Watford actually played pretty well in the opening part of this game and put Burnley on the back foot consistently. And it was thanks to James Trafford that they were kept in it. Doumbia obviously scores a great goal to put Watford 1-0 up, and Trafford is unlucky because he almost gets a hand to it, but the shot's like just too powerful and it gets it into the bottom corner and puts I think if I remember the goal right, it put Watford 1-0 up, deservedly so. Obviously, the key moment, Millwall man on loan at Burnley, Ian Fleming, equalises. And safe to say he enjoyed shushing the Watford fans, which I imagine he was not very gracious towards, but or likewise, vice versa. But that was a big moment for them because then Josh Brownhill ends up scoring the winning goal just before the hour mark. And the last period of the game, when it is basically 11 versus 11 v 11 here, ignoring the fact that Watford decided to press the self-destruct button and have two red cards, which effectively killed their chance of getting something from the game. How big is that from Burnley? Because they've had a habit recently of coming from behind at tough grounds, by the way, Coventry being one of them, Watford being another, where they've come from behind and managed to win away from home. That's the sign of a team going up automatically, I think.
They've conceded 3 goals in 4 as well now. So
That's poor for
yeah,
Burnley.
that's horrible. Parker should be sacked
I
immediately.
know, honestly, absolutely terrible. Get him out.
It's terrible. Yeah, I mean that it's yeah, they're still conceding ridiculously low number of goals. Even the past 4 games have been really good defensively. Um, James Trafford pulls off. At first, I thought, this is the long range effort I'm talking about. I don't know who it's
Yeah.
from. Where he hits it, and I'm going, oh, that's just gone over. And then I watched the slow replay of it, and I've gone, how the hell has he managed to get a fingertip on that?
That
And
was a
that's
1-0, wasn't it? I'm sure it
Yeah,
was.
and Watford obviously missed really big chances before that. Sorry, even after
Yeah.
that, to uh, pretty much bury the game at halftime, 3-0. It would have been game over. Um, but Burnley don't concede 2 goals in a game. Have they conceded 2 goals in a game this season in the league?
Oh, that's a very good question.
I don't.
Hang
Have
on,
they?
I'm going to go and try and have a look through their results. Bear with me.
My gut instinct says no.
I'm with you. I don't think they will have done, but
And
I'll have a check.
but but still, they're properly good defensively, and they've got that attacking quality now on top, which they lacked a little bit during the start of the season with Marcus Edwards, Anthony, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. That them sort of the wingers are really chipping in, and obviously Josh Brownhill. I mean, I love Brownhill, but I've not seen that sort of. I didn't see that sort of goal scoring ability in this game, but that's really been must be his top. Must be the top scorer for Burnley. Um, yeah, he's in contention with a player of the season. Surely, if Burnley go up, the number of goal contributions he's had. But yeah, they've been fantastic, and they look like they're on the brink.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I'm just trying to have a look through all their results. They did concede 2 goals in the League Cup when they lost 2-0 at Wolves, but obviously we're not counting that. I don't think it's
No,
mainly
and
just.
they conceded 3 at Preston in the FA Cup, but that again, that doesn't.
Well, okay, yeah. So if you're talking just league, no, they haven't conceded more than 1 goal in a single game this season.
That's
That's.
ridiculous.
Do you know
That's
something I've got to
ridiculous.
quickly say while we're on the subject of Burnley? Who was it that got nominated? Who is it that's been nominated for Championship Manager of the Season officially?
It's
As
top
in
four. The top four.
the top four, right? Okay. Do you want to be
Yeah.
honest? For me, out of the top four, for me, Scott Parker should win it because of not just for the fact that, but if it was just the fact that just Burnley have gone up automatically, I don't think he would. But the amount of goals they've conceded or not conceded, and the defensive numbers, and the game's unbeaten, I think that is a massive, massive. I think that's a massive achievement on that front.
Is
The
it
only
31 now? Is it
no, it's
unbeaten?
30. I think it's 30. Millwall away at the start of November was the last time that they lost a game, and I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
30 games unbeaten now.
I
It's
think it
either
might be
29 or
30.
30, but I'm pretty sure it's 30.
Yeah.
That's freakish. Whatever level you're at, that is a freakish amount of games to go unbeaten. And remember, they could go unbeaten at home for the whole season. Watch me put the jinx and kiss of death on it now. I've said that. But the only way for me out of them top four who should win the manager of the season, apart from ahead of Scott Parker, is if Labrise wins the playoffs with Sunderland. That's the only way out of the top four that for me that anyone should get manager of the season. And quickly, I think I said this to Ant last season. I don't know what you think. I'm not a fan of the manager of the season thing coming out before the season's finished because obviously, if say for example, I'm trying to think of an example here. John Eustace, for example, got nominated for manager of the season, and then Derby get relegated. Like, well, so you're saying someone who's hypothetical. I know he hasn't been nominated, but I'm not a fan of the fact that why can't the awards wait until after the season, including the playoffs, is over? Because for me, if you want to look at it another way, if Bristol City get in the playoffs, I think Liam Manning should be up there as a shout for manager of the season, especially given what he's personally gone through this season as well. So it's yeah. But anyway, no. I just think out of the top four that have been nominated, as of right now, Scott Parker, for the records he's set with Burnley, I think should win it. But I don't know what you think.
I mean, I can see that argument, but I would also argue Burnley have they're in receipt of parachute payments. They have a freakishly good squad for this level. And I know they had a lot of disruption at the start of the season, but still, the end product of that is still a really top squad for
Yeah,
this
I
level.
can see that argument.
Am I surprised? If you told me at the start of the season Burnley going to finish second, I wouldn't be like, oh, that's a massive surprise. I'd have probably said, yeah, probably where they should be. Second, third, first, probably where they should be. But yeah, the records set along the way, the defensive numbers are like unprecedented. They are. We've not seen that before in this division. And Egan Riley, Esteve, Roberts, whoever's been a left back, Lucas Perez, Basher Humphreys, whoever it's been, James Strafford in net, all been incredible as a part of this defence. I would say in terms of overachievement, I'd probably say Regis Labris. I think is that how you say it?
Well, I say Labrise, but I've heard it pronounced as Labris, so either as far as I'm concerned.
Because I said Reggie Labrie at the start of the season, and and one of the replies was a video of Reggie Labris actually saying his name properly, and I was like, oh, that's not very French.
Well, to be honest, I
And
say Labrise, so say whatever way you want. I couldn't give two
the
hoots.
Sunderland manager,
Yeah,
he's
that French dude at
I'd say
Sunderland, him.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them.
Oh yeah, true.
There's, I think, in terms of
Okay.
overachievement, he's probably done the best job. Um,
Yeah.
and to be sort of in and around the top two mix for so long. I know you faded off a little bit, but to be in that mix for so long, I think shouldn't be sort of just be cast aside. I think that should also be taken into consideration. I think he's done probably in my opinion probably the best job in the championship. If Manning gets us in the playoffs and if Manning wins Bristol City the playoffs,
Then
okay,
Manning hands down for me.
yeah, Manning has to. I'd say was probably should be winning it. If Eustace keeps Derby up, is that a better achievement considering Derby's predicament they were in when Eustace
Hmm.
walked in? Don't know.
Gary
Um,
Rowett's another name I'd throw in there.
yeah, but Rowett had like for him, I'd say he's had a peak and then it's just kind of fallen off since, hasn't it? I know they've won a couple of games recently, but they were already in a sort of not a terrible position when Rowett walked in. They were sort of
No, but at the same time, if they hadn't appointed Rowett, I think that if they'd kept Des Buckingham, for example, I think they'd be in a much worse position than what they are now. And that's not me saying Des Buckingham's a crap manager, because obviously he got Oxford promoted, so he's not. But my point is, he's had one of the lowest budgets to. He will. I'd be very surprised if Oxford are up there, aren't up there in terms of one of the lowest budgets in the entire division. A club that is probably arguably punching above its weight, being in the Championship. But you can make an argument one way or another for that. And the fact, even if he had that peak and sort of dipped a bit, we have to remember the quality of the squad probably wouldn't
yeah.
have been as good as what he's had to work with at, say, Derby or Stoke or Millwall, even. And I'm not, and again,
Yeah,
it's not a poor squad, obviously, but like, I think he's done a fantastic job, and it looks like he's on the brink of keeping Oxford in the Championship. So, I mean, look, I guess it just depends. Really,
John Messina as well. I think should be in that conversation.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, it's just a matter of, well, you know who really should win it? Wayne Rooney. Yeah, win the Razzie equivalent of the football manager of the season. There you go.
Who's the Stoke manager? Narcis Pelach. I think he'd be a good
Yeah,
shout.
absolutely. Technically, by then you should say Mark Robbins just for making so steady in this shit. Oh my god, that's how bad things are. So we'll get on to Stoke in a bit. They did get a good win on the other day. Right, we'll move on to the next game. So again, we'll go in chronological because this game kind of affects the both top and bottom of it. So obviously, the next team to play was Chris Wilder and Sheffield United. Obviously, they'd come into this game off the back of three defeats on the spin, which meant that their top two hopes were hanging by, well, even more at that point because Burnley played a game extra, were hanging more by a thread. But thankfully for them, Cardiff were pretty poor, but Sheffield United still had to do the job in front of them. Goals from Gustavo Hamer and a late one from Ben Brereton Diaz sealed a 2-0 win at Bramall Lane for Sheffield United. And let's just say, is it Omar Ritza? Well, now former Cardiff manager, Omar Ritza, apparently made some very clueless comments. And yes, that was a very much a joke intended. I wish Nathan was on; he would have been hilarious at this. But yeah, it's an equal one, isn't it? For me, like it's important for Sheffield United to keep their faint top two hopes alive, but also it plunges Cardiff deeper into the mire.
Well, talking on United first, I think they have simple. They have to go to Burnley and win.
Yeah, they do.
Problem is, no one has done that this season. So good luck with that. But if any team is going to do it, probably is going to be Sheffield United, isn't it?
The home.
I
I mean,
think,
they've got is it Sheffield United and Millwall? I think to come at home, and I wouldn't have much
yeah,
faith in Millwall
yeah.
going there and winning now that their season looks pretty much done. Spoiler, but like Sheffield United, for me, if Sheffield United are going to win, they have to keep a clean sheet because
I
Burnley
just,
rarely concede more than one, don't they?
I just have flashbacks of Ellen Road, 2018-19, Sheffield United, Leeds against Sheffield United, crunch game, Farker against Wilder, Chris Basham arriving, as the famous quote goes, and finishing and nicking a 1-0. I wouldn't be utterly shocked if Sheffield United went there and won,
No, I
but
wouldn't be either.
but the problem is, even if Blades do go there and win,
It's still not in their
um,
hands, is it?
still 2 points behind, and that's a massive issue, and you need Burnley to lose ultimately because of the goal difference. So I think it's going to be really tough for Sheffield United to go up automatically from this position. I think they're pretty much resigned, stuck in third place now after what was a horrendous week. I mean, Jesus Christ. With a squad of that capability, losing Oxford, losing home to Millwall, and then losing late comeback by Plymouth at home park. I mean, just no.
Well, you mean
Especially
Plymouth, who are bottom of the league for a reason, apparently.
no comment.
Yeah, everyone
But
knows my thoughts on Chris Wilder at this point. But yeah, carry on.
yeah, I mean, they've just completely just sort of hit the self destruct button, and they've what was really good sort of 98% of the season because of 3 games gone, and that's no team, no team in the top 3 has lost 2 games in a row this season, apart from Sheffield United, and they've done it twice, and one of them was 3 times in a row. So those are little differences. Sheffield United have won the most games, I think, this season. Have they still? I don't know if that's still
Give me
true.
a moment. I might be able to
Um,
find that out for you.
either most or like joint probably, and
No, most. They've won 27
most.
games.
But I don't know. They've got the 2 points deduction as well, which obviously plays a factor, and now looks sort of very important considering if they do go to Burnley and win, they'll be level on points. But no, I think they've completely hit the self-destruct button, and you can only beat what's in front of you. But Cardiff, oh dearie me.
Where'd you start?
I mean, Omer Ritza didn't never really gave me the vibe of a Cardiff City manager in terms of he just didn't. When Sabri Lamucci came in a couple of seasons ago in a relegation battle, I kind of straight away went, he's going to keep them up. They're going to be fine. The squad quality, I'd say, is on a similar level to when I'd say it's better than last season. Is it better than when they were in a relegation battle 2 years ago? Probably. So it's not the quality. I think it's an application from the players. I think the attitudes of the players is just not there. I think it's gross negligence by the owner. Obviously, obviously, that's a given with Vincent Tan. But Omar Ritza has had a really good start, didn't he? Um,
Then turn clueless.
and then got then it was given the permanent job, and then it's just fallen off a cliff. I mean, they've not won any of their last 5, I think, or last 5, I think, and they've just fallen off a cliff. I mean, players look shot of confidence. Losing at home in the manner they did to Stoke is just a hammer blow. Losing at home to Luton, hammer blow, and that was a late comeback by Luton as well in the second half. So pretty much give them the 3 points. I think it was that Luton game where I went, these lot are in trouble here, and they looked. Yeah, I think Cardiff are in bang in trouble, like bang in trouble, and I'd be from this situation, I'd be quite surprised if they did manage to find a way to get themselves out of it. The only thing going for Cardiff though is they've got relatively nice fixtures, which are okay fixtures, maybe. Home to Oxford. Oxford tend to be better at the Kassan than they do away from home. West Brom at home looks good because West Brom look like they're out of the playoff picture. Touch wood. And then
Yeah,
Norwich
it's Norwich,
away.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, Norwich away, which again, considering
And the
Pompey just
mood
went
there
and
is not good at Norwich, by the way, at the moment.
Pompey
So
just went stuck 5 at Carrow Road, and Norwich are the worst team in the division since March, start of March or
it's
something.
something like the last 9, 10 games, I think. Apparently, the
Yeah,
recent form there, the bottom of the league. Yeah.
yeah. So that could be nice, but Cardiff have put themselves in a horrible position, and they really shouldn't have. I don't think. But yeah, will be interesting to see how Aaron Ramsey gets on as manager.
Aye. Well, yeah, wouldn't be surprised if he has been officially appointed. No luck. But no,
No,
it was.
he has been. He has
Oh, has
been.
he? Well, there you go. That's how out of the loop I've been.
Yeah,
Well, here's something I want to quickly touch on because I think was it January Cardiff beat Swansea convincingly at the
yeah.
Cardiff City
Yeah, that's
Stadium.
something.
Yeah. Now, if you looked at it, that record, if you told Cardiff and Swansea fans then what was going to happen, I think every Swansea fan, for example, said, "What have you been smoking? Can I have some of it?" Because Cardiff are obviously what down in 23rd, and then I can't believe this. I've just checked it. Swansea are 15 points above Cardiff, and Swansea are what, like 11th, which is just crazy. But yeah, safe for Cardiff. Well, all right then. Aaron Ramsey's going to have his work cut out for him. If he manages to keep Cardiff up from here, then fair play to the guy. Fair play to the guy. We'll see what happens. The only thing, like I said, the saving grace for them, as you've said, is their fixtures are should be relatively kind for them in the sense that two of their opponents have nothing to play for, and Oxford look to be 90% safe. I think, obviously, but you never know. And speaking of Oxford, let's get to the last of the automatic promotion teams. And obviously, once we've done this, we'll talk about the relegation battle in a bit more detail to avoid going down to League One. But Oxford lost 1-0 at home to Leeds. Hang on. Once I can actually find it. There we go. Menor Solomon obviously scored the goal in the first half that sealed the victory for Leeds. Good assist from Jaden Bogle as well, actually. From what I've watched, because I think I watched bits of the second half of this game, for me, I think Leeds had to show a different sort of side to their game. And we know that Leeds are obviously all about the fancy play, and they've got technically, for me, the best team in the league by some way. But at the same time, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Doug has just commented, friend of the show. Good evening, Doug. Yeah, you're one step closer to the Premier League, and let's just say you've probably made Ant very, very, very sad. So commiserations to Ant if you're watching, because obviously Leicester have been confirmed to be relegated to the Championship the next season. So if you have missed Ant, he'll probably be back doing these next season. Who knows? Depends how much of a life he's got. But either way, not to say if you're doing the show you don't have a life, but except for me. But anyway, back to the football. Leeds won 1-0. Tanaka hit the post late on in this game. So in some senses, Leeds were probably unlucky not to have scored more, but Oxford were always still in the game, which I know sounds very, very contradictory. But I think from Oxford's point of view, there's no disgrace in losing this game. Leeds for me are, again, I've said before, Leeds are the team who I think will go on to win the division. And even when Leeds fans have been having a total meltdown and saying, oh, we're falling apart, Leeds are falling apart again, I've been quite calm and said, no, they will still make automatic promotion at the very least. I didn't expect Sheffield United to obviously lose 3 games in the spin, but this is a big, big win for Leeds for me, because I think, especially with the pressure when you're playing last out of everyone around you for the top 3. Burnley had it probably the best, because if you win, then you've got to kick back and put the pressure on the other teams. But Leeds managed to show that they can do the ugly side of the game, and it's just sort of calmed everything down again after they went on a run of something like 1 win in 6, I think it was, and then since then they've beaten Middlesbrough, then they've beaten Preston, and now they've beaten Oxford, which means Leeds, like Burnley, are, I think, potentially 24 hours away from being confirmed back into the Premier League. So, but yeah, big, big win for Leeds for this one. Is there anything for you to add?
Yeah, no, the goal was superb. I mean, it's a split ball by Joe Rodon to Jaden Bogle, and it's a nice ball across from Bogle. I think when Leeds play football like that, I don't think anyone in this division, let alone Oxford, can cope with it. So, quality goal, a massive 3 points, 3 wins in a row, and as you say, they're possibly less than 24 hours away from going back to the Premier League. They can confirm it if they'd have to wait for the game at Turf Moor, but yeah, I think it would be nice for them to pretty much confirm it at home in front of their own fans to Stoke. And for my sake, I'm hoping
I
they
was
do
just about to
confirm it.
say, well, we're waiting here for Bristol
Let's
City.
hope they do confirm it tomorrow for no reason.
So basically what you're saying is you hope they confirm it tomorrow, then they've been partying so hard all week that they've got sore heads and hangovers by the time you lot go to Ellen Road, and then we end up seeing Leeds 0, Bristol City 2 of something of that sort.
Anything will do.
Yeah,
any
I
any
thought
any,
so.
any
I
sort of
thought
result
so.
at Ellen Road. Yep, perfect.
Yeah. No, but
But
you're
yeah,
right.
they've been brilliant all season, so I think
Yeah, I mean, that one
they
win in
deserve to
6
be in
is
this
an
position.
anomaly for the form for them, isn't it? Like, in general, they've been the best team of the division, and I think they are, even if they finish first, I don't think Leeds fans will care that much if they finish first or second, as long as they finish first or second. I think the main objective is automatic promotion, and yeah, people can say, oh, well, with the squad they've got, the money they've spent, blah, 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 you've still got to go out and do the job. If money you've spent on the squad was an indicator of how well you should be doing, then Luton would be doing much better this season. We sure as hell wouldn't have got relegated to League One 7 years ago. So there you go. That just tells you how it is still difficult. And to be fair, and credit to Daniel Farker as well, because whether it was because he was forced to by the board in terms of dropping Meslier and putting Darlow in goal, or whatever else there is. But to manage a football club of that size, where the pressure is big, the noise is always loud, there's a passionate fan base there, and I mean this with the greatest respect to the club, to Norwich, for example, because Norwich obviously are historically big in this league, but Leeds, in terms of atmospheres and in terms of size, is different level to Norwich. And I think Daniel Farke's had to deal with that pressure all season long. So to deliver it, I think it's a really, really good statement to the guy. And yeah, so quickly on tomorrow before we move on to the other fixtures. Basically, here's how the situation is. Leeds plays Stoke at 3 o'clock, I believe, tomorrow at Ellen Road. Then obviously the big game kicks off on I was going to say Friday night. Don't know why. Tomorrow night, 5:30, or tomorrow evening, Burnley versus Sheffield United. So the scenario is this: if Leeds win and Sheffield United fail to win, Leeds are mathematically back in the Premier League. If Sheffield United win and Leeds win, then obviously promotion's not done yet, but then they go 3 points clear of Burnley. I suspect the best case scenario for them is if Leeds and Burnley both win, then obviously both of them are confirmed to be automatically promoted back to the Premier League, and then they're scrapping it out for the title, basically. Sounds like I'm making them have like a scrap on the pitch, but either way, yeah, big. So it's a potentially big, good Easter weekend for both Leeds and for Burnley. I suspect if you're a Leeds fan, you probably want a draw tomorrow because it does the dual purpose of confirming automatic promotion for you, but puts you 2 points ahead of Burnley. Plus, it means you can take it on easy on Bristol City so they can finish fifth. But either way, we'll see what happens with that one. But yeah, it's going to be shaping up to being a very interesting Easter Monday. Very, very interesting Easter Monday. So we shall see what happens with that one. Quickly for Oxford, from their perspective, how many points are they above the bottom three now? I think it's 5. Yeah, 5. So it's at the minute it's effectively 6, but the goal difference could still swing, but they're still effectively 6 points. Yeah, I think Oxford probably need a couple more points at most, probably.
Yeah, they can scrape a 0-0 from somewhere, can't they? So I think they'll be.
Yeah, I think they'll be all right. They've got the wiggle room for error, haven't they? Yeah, I would say that is a pretty fair sort of analysis on that. So yeah, we think Oxford will be all right. Not mathematically done yet, but obviously we'll wait and see what happens with that one.
Nearly.
Yeah. Anyway, right. Let's get on to the next. Right. Let's talk about the relegation battle. What a lunchtime game this was on Good Friday. Not in terms of apparently I've heard the match itself wasn't very good, but in terms of the position of both teams in the league, it doesn't get much bigger than this in terms of relegation battles. Derby County 0, Luton Town 1. How crucial at the risk of being Captain Obvious here. Newest Avengers recruit Captain Obvious. How big was it for Luton to win this game? Because if they didn't win this game, it would have been much bigger task to stay up, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, that is. I think for Luton it was. I think for Derby, more important not to lose the game.
Yeah,
and I think they've still been in pole position to go on and survive if they didn't lose the game. But for Luton, yeah, I think if they had lost the game, they would have. I think that would have been them sort of cooked. I wouldn't have sent. I would not have seen them making up 6 points with 3 games to go. But they've gone there, won. We know they have the quality. I mean, for crying out loud, they have a £10 million centre back playing for them, so they surely should have the quality. But
Taylor Asgard, Isaiah Jones, who they bought for big money in January as well.
Yeah, I mean, got some good players, Luton. So, and we know with Luton, his sort of the culture that's been built in recent years has been about grit, about never say die, never giving up, hard works, all of that sort of good stuff. And if you can kind of rekindle that a little bit, you're gonna have somewhat of a winning formula, coupled with the quality they have at the moment. So, yeah, massive win. I saw some of the second half at Ashton Gate, and I was quite surprised at Derby's approach, where it was sort of they don't really have a target man in there. They have Jerry Yates, he's more of a poacher, not really someone you want to hit into the box. The number of crosses they put into the box with Mark McGuinness, Chris Makoso, Naismith, and Mari Bell, people like that who are just going to win headers for fun all day if you do that. And I was really surprised and really disappointed by John Eustace's approach to the game. And I think that didn't help Derby at all. They had a lot of the territory and the momentum and second half, but they didn't manage to find the goal and never really looked that threatening. And it always felt like for a set piece, or a second ball being a little bit fortunate for them was the only way they were going to get a goal. If Derby had got a late equaliser, though, I think that would have been really psychologically damaging for Luton, and that might as well have been a defeat for them in terms of a mental sort of punch in the gut. But it wasn't. They won. They've won 1-0 away from home. They've won away from home again. And Luton recently in these games, they won at Hull, they won at Cardiff, they've won here. They got a late equaliser at Stoke. In these games, Luton recently have been a lot better, and have actually been quite good at nicking points off other teams and actually closing gaps. So it's these next two home games. I think it's the next two home games against us,
Bristol City
and
and
then
Coventry, isn't it?
yeah, these next two home games against sides who are going for it. Obviously we're not the quality of the top four, but we're sort of pushing. I think
You're
Luton,
both in the
Kenilworth
playoffs,
Road.
though, so yeah.
Yeah. I think Luton with Kenilworth Road have to make it really difficult for both Coventry and Bristol City starting tomorrow, and have to ensure that they make it really uncomfortable for the opposition. Because then they go to West Brom away on the final day, which could be a soft fixture for West Brom, considering if they're not in the top four. If they're not in the top six race come the end of the season, which they probably won't be. But yeah, I think these next two home games for Luton are massive, and they've got to take. It can't be now just great, we won at Derby, job's done. Nah, I think they've got to push, and Derby with themselves. This was the game to kill it, I think. And they've. I don't want to swear here, but they've totally screwed it up. They've totally. I think the mindset, the approach was completely wrong. And Derby have some good players who can make an impact and change games, but played right into Luton's hands, I think, on this one.
Well, to be fair, if you're looking at Derby's fixtures, I'm just seeing it there. Obviously, I think Derby, they've got to go to West Brom themselves, funnily enough, tomorrow. Then their last two games are ones that, on paper, should look quite kind for them, which is they go to Hull next week, and Hull have, I think, the worst home record of the division, I think. Obviously, I know Coventry didn't win there last week, but in general, that's like one game. In general, at home, they have been pretty poor. Then you look at, then they've got Stoke at home. Now, by that point, I think it looks like Stoke are going to be safe. So that could play into their hands. So I genuinely can't call who I think is going to go down. It's just way too close at the minute, because every time you think someone's going to have turned a corner, then they end up managing to mess it up in one way or another. So I think from Derby's point of view, I agree with you. I think if it had been, if say Derby had scored a late equaliser, I think that would have been mentally quite big for them, as big for them as it would have been bad for Luton, if that makes sense. And although this isn't catastrophic for Derby to lose it, it makes your job quite a bit more difficult. So I would say Luton on paper have the slightly tougher fixtures, but at the same time they're both at Kenilworth Road, so that also could cancel it out. So I haven't got a clue how it's gonna pan out. So long story short, I've given up trying to predict it. But we shall see. One thing I am quite confident in predicting is, let's move on to the next one. I think it's safe to say Pompey are probably going to be safe. Let's talk about this one. The game with the most goals on Good Friday in the Championship. Norwich City 3, Portsmouth 5. George Long, cover your ears. George Long, who's not Norwich's number one goalkeeper, did not cover himself in glory, particularly for the
Needs to
first
cover his
goal.
hands as well.
Sorry?
Needs to cover his hands. He's got massive holes in them, clearly.
I know, absolutely. Yeah, he's taking lessons off Lee Camp. So, yeah. I'm getting PTSD flashbacks thinking about that idiot. Right, moving on. Yeah, which angle do we want to start with? Actually, what then? It's equally as bad for Norwich, this result, as good as it is for Portsmouth, because we know Portsmouth away from home generally tend not to be very good, but I think it's probably the ideal time to play Norwich, which isn't Portsmouth's problem, by the way. You've still got to go out and win the game. I can imagine, and obviously for Colby Bishop to get a hat-trick, great moment for him after the open heart surgery I think he had. I'm pretty sure, heart surgery of some description.
Some sort of medical issue.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was heart surgery he might have had, or heart condition of some kind. So anyone in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but he definitely had some sort of surgery, I think. Either way, massive for him and massive for Portsmouth, because that is because it has put them 6 points clear of the relegation zone with 3 games left. And something you mentioned about John Mousinho, I think, is that one of the things we have to talk about again is the fact that he had to adapt from a team that was winning most weeks in League One, was one of the favourites in League One, one of the big boys in League One, so to speak, and he's adapted to the Championship where they're, I don't want to say small fish in a bigger pond because Portsmouth are a pretty big club, but I also mean that in terms of what they're used to playing against, and in terms of how the people have bigger budgets than Pompey will, John Mousinho's done really, really well. And as we've said before, I think the issue could be, do clubs higher up the pyramid end up coming in for him? But in a way, that's a good thing for Pompey because it means he's done well for them. And they're on 49 points, all but safe. Again, not mathematically, but you wouldn't be surprised if they didn't need another point at this stage. So, but yeah, what a job John Mousinho has done, and what a result this is for Portsmouth.
Yeah, I mean it's just massive. They've they've gone to Carrow Road and stuck 5 past Norwich, which is not easy, like at all.
No, it's not.
No matter how bad Norwich are, have been at the moment, have been recently. Sorry, to do that is quite exceptional, and they've done it really. And they should have probably had more, from what I'm hearing, and the highlights and some of the chances they actually missed. So, yeah, massive win for Pompey. I did expect them to win one more game until the end. From before that, with 4 games to go, I did expect them to win one more game. I didn't expect them to go there to Carrow Road and like genuinely dismantle Norwich, especially with the away form they've had as well. So huge for Mousinho, huge for Pompey, but for Norwich, whew, God,
Bad,
they're
isn't
bad
it?
defensively. I mean, they're still really good going forward. I mean, scoring 3 at home is always good. They've
If
conceded
you're letting
5.
5, though, it's a bit
They've conceded
counterproductive,
5
really.
at home to a side who ultimately are in a relegation battle. And for Norwich, in the Championship, for a club of that stature, for a club of the recent sort of success they've had in this division, winning the league twice, finishing in the top 6 last season, to do that, it's just mental. And I know we've kind of looked at Giannis Hoff-Torp and gone, right, he's going to have a season. He's going to have a season of development. He's going to have a season of kind of just betting in, maybe clearing some of the deadwood this upcoming summer, and signing younger players, then betting in over a season, and then next season is going to be Norwich, really sort of pushing
It
with the
needs to start well, mind.
yeah. I think the problem with Norwich at the moment is the patience of the fan base is wearing thinner and thinner, and it's not like they're seeing performances on the pitch that are sort of indicative of maybe an upward trajectory next season. They're seeing constant bile, and it's not good, ultimately. And they've, again, as I mentioned, since the start of March, they've been the worst. No other team in the Championship has collected fewer points than Norwich, which is, as I said, the money they've spent in the Championship, the players they've got, the quality, and they're going to lose some of the quality. Mind, Josh Sargent's going to leave. Boris Science is probably going to leave. Angus Gunn is probably
Angus
going
Gunn,
to
I've heard,
leave,
to go in. Yeah.
and that's 3 already. That's 2 of your. That's your attacking threat pretty much gone. And 2. And I looked at the top scorers list and I was like, Boris Science and Josh Sargent are both in the top 3, and
I'm
Norwich is
sure Boris
in.
Hines, hasn't he been stuck on like 17 goals for like 3 months?
I mean, no one in the Championship is scoring regularly, to be fair.
No.
But yeah, Boris Science and Josh Sargent, both of the top 3 goal scorers in the season. Norwich is stuck in mid-table. If we expect both of them to go, are they going to have the adequate replacement? I mean, they did it by signing Science and Sargent, but are they going to adequately replace both of them? Maybe, maybe not. There's Ante Sayanac, there's an Oscar Schwartau, there's I don't know. Can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but someone like that have to step up, probably. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be as plain sailing as you'd expect for Norwich next season. I don't think they're just going to now just change, and next season they're going to be a sort of winning machine. I think it's going to be a little bit different to that, and I think comparisons to Daniel Farke's first season in Norwich, as Norwich manager,
Yeah.
is I get it, because that also was a transition season. I get it in terms of it was tough mid-table, and then next season was unbelievable. But I think he didn't lose. He lost Madison, didn't he? But he didn't lose.
But then they signed Pookie that summer, didn't they?
They signed Pookie, they signed Buendia, and then Max Aarons came
Yeah.
through, and then Jamal Lewis came through, and Ben Godfrey. It was craziness. But anyway, he didn't lose Boris Signs and Josh Sargent. He didn't lose his two best players. He lost his best player, but they sort of losing your best player can be kind of easily sort of replaced by signing three other players that can kind of equally match their output. Villa did it with Jack Grealish when he left, and they signed like Watkins, Leon Bailey, and someone else, and then they kind of replaced that. That's the example I go for when talking about a team in the championship losing their best player. Sorry, but losing two of your best players, especially in the upper end of the pitch, so difficult to replace that. Because there are only so many positions you can sort of fill. But yeah, Science and Sargent, they're going to leave, probably. Your goalkeeper's going to leave. You're expecting young players who are new to the championship to step up massively next season, and expecting a top six finish, top six push, or a top six finish. I think Yanisov Torup is under massive pressure. I think there's going to be loads of questions asked over the summer, and it'll be very interesting to see what sort of business they do in the summer as well. So a really interesting time at Norwich. Hasn't helped by the recent form, which has been dreadful. But yeah, I don't know if you have any more to add on that.
Well, I think if you're quickly looking at the goal scoring and goals conceded, I'm just looking now. 66 goals scored, which for context is more than Coventry, 10 more than Bristol City, 8 more than Sunderland, 7 more than Burnley and Sheffield United. But they've also let in 63 goals. 63 goals. That is... And I know 5 of them were scored in this game by an opposition, because that kind of offsets it a little bit, but yeah, that's still not good enough. That's still poor. You got to remember, another player who I really rate, both me and Ant have seen play for us, is Callum Doyle on loan from Man City. He's going to go back. Is he going to come back to Norwich next season? He might do, but I doubt it. I'm with you. I do get the comparisons to Daniel Farke's first season. I think they finished something like 14th in his first season, then obviously ended up winning the league. But the big difference for there is that in that era in the Championship, while you had clubs with parachute payments, it's not quite as inflated as it is now. It's a different beast now. So if you look at next season, you've got, let's say for argument's sake, Leeds, Burnley, Sheffield United go up. Leicester, Ipswich, Southampton. Well, Ipswich aren't mathematically relegated yet, but it's going to be them three. So them three are coming back down. Straight away for me, the quality there's better than three. Not saying miles better, but it's better for me than what the relegated clubs are this season. You've got, let's say, Sunderland for a good example. Say if we don't go up, I'll obviously have my concerns about how much we'd have to replace in one window, but we should now be in a position, even if we don't go up this season, to go again next year if we sell and reinvest properly. So that, and I mention us because of the fact that they're trying to go along the route that we have been over the last few years. But the difference is they're probably in next year's year 2 for Norwich. Next year for us is probably year 5. So we're already a few years ahead of what Norwich are. So it's just an example there. It's going to be harder next year, and you've got to look at it. Let's say if Luton stay up, I think Luton should be improving massively next season. Coventry, if they can start better, I think we should be right up there. Bristol
Birmingham.
City, sorry?
Birmingham.
Yeah, I mean, we probably
Wrexham.
we probably do sneakily laugh about it, but yeah, I'd expect Birmingham to be closer to the playoffs than I would the relegation battle. Middlesbrough, depends what they do with Michael Carrick. So I think with Norwich, look, I'm not denying it. Look, Norwich, I think they pay something like one of the most expensive season tickets in the Championship as well. So really, when you look for the money fans are paying for season tickets and for tickets in general, Norwich should be doing a lot better than 13th. And while this season is definitely a transition season for Norwich, next season the patience will not be there anywhere near as much, and rightly so, because you have to balance having longer term and balancing out like having patience for longer term. And I know this because I've had to get used to this over the last few years. Balance that, but you also need something in the short term as well. It's about balancing the two of them. You'll have had it with Bristol City as well, gradually building towards something, but you also need to see something. So, yeah, I think all I'll say, I'll end it on Norwich, is they're saying that I think they're a club that needs the season to end. They really do. I think if you could give them the forfeit FIFA button forfeit match mode, for the last 3 games, they probably would press it and just go, "Yep, that's it. We'll just forfeit the last 3 and just be done with it." But yeah, let's say the summer's massive for both Hannes Hotorp and for sporting director Ben Napper. That's going to be crucial to see what they end up doing. Right, we'll try and see if we can whiz through a few more of these games. So obviously we have Portsmouth. Right, next one. Let's go to the Liberty Stadium. Swansea City 1, Hull City 0. An early second half penalty from Zan Vipotnik sealed what looked like was a deserved win for Swansea. So it looks like Hull weren't very good in this game. Matt Crooks got sent off in stoppage time for Hull. Now, I thought Hull would be plain sailing, but it turns out they are, 2 points? Well, effectively 3, but 2 points above the drop zone. Is this a concern for Hull? Because Hull have been the kind of because Hull, when your home form's poor, if you're putting a lot of pressure on your away form, and they're capable of delivering away from home, by the way, because if you look at it, to be fair, home or away, they've took points off Burnley, Sheffield United, and Sunderland, so they clearly can raise their game, but it's not looking great for
They're
them at the minute.
they're not great at home, but my big problem with them is they lose some utterly. They lose some unbelievable head-to-heads. They've lost at home to Luton. They lost at Cardiff. They lost against Stoke early in the season. They've the recently the only head-to-head they've won is Oxford at home, and that was they won 1-0 down in that one as well. So
Did they lose away at Oxford?
yes, they did. That was
Yeah, I
under
thought
Tim
they did.
Volter.
In fact,
Yeah,
hang on, they lost
um,
twice to Luton then, didn't they? Because I remember they lost to Kenilworth Road earlier in the season as well.
yeah. What happened against Derby? Did they lose at Derby? No, I think they drew against Derby and they drew against Pompey at home.
But just to point out
So
what you're sorry to interrupt, but just to point out what you're saying though, look at all those head-to-heads they've lost. Imagine if they just drew those games. Just don't lose them. Then you're pretty much in a great. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Hull will get relegated. I do think Hull will just about have enough, but they need to find a. Like I mean, quickly, obviously for Swansea, great. I think that's their 4th win in a row without conceding. I believe that's it. And obviously, yeah, you can say Hull. Who's the other ones? Plymouth, Derby, blah blah blah, whatever. But you've still got to go out and get those wins, and they won away at Sunderland last weekend. So Sheehan is doing a very, very good job at Swansea so far, and there's obviously big calls for him to get the job on a permanent basis. But for Hull, yeah, you're right. I mean, if you look at some of the head-to-heads they've lost, it's been not been great for them. Do you think Hull will go down, or do you think they'll just about have enough to stop up?
no, I don't think I'll go down.
Me neither.
But I'm getting less and less convinced Luton go down, which, and I'm not convinced Derby go down. So someone's gonna go down, and I don't think it'll be Hull. I'm edging towards it's not going to be Derby or Luton.
But then obviously
So
you've got. But
so
who's
it can't,
joining Cardiff and Plymouth then, based on that?
but it can't be Oxford and it can't be Pompey because they're too far ahead. So basically, I have no idea. As you'd say, I haven't got a clue. But I think if Hull were to go down, I think they'll be very unfortunate. They're above a point per game, but 2 points. The only saving grace for them is they play Derby at home, which is a home game ultimately, and you've got. I know Hull have been terrible at home, but you've got to maximise your home fixtures. They play Preston who are on the beach, probably not mathematically out of it, but they're pretty much all but out of it. And they go away to Pompey on the final day, where Pompey are probably going to be safe. So I don't know with Hull. I thought after the win at Sheffield Wednesday, I thought, right, that's it. Yeah, Ruben Salas, great job. He's got them safe. But this is
They decide to make things interesting, don't they?
yeah, they've really not helped themselves by losing that head to head against Luton and losing this one and losing at Watford. Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm very sort of I'm sort of split. I'm more convinced by Hull staying up than I am by Derby and Luton staying up. But I'm very even on Derby and Luton and a little bit more higher on
Yeah.
Hull. But it's not a lot, I don't think, between those three. I think it will be one of those three sides to finish 22nd. I think Cardiff are. I think it'll be very, very impressive if Cardiff do stay up. But I think it'll be one of those three who finish 22nd.
Very quickly, the weekly steel chair. I absolutely adore that name. That is absolutely class. I suspect you're talking about Norwich here. Mentality of giants, but humbled by their level. I don't know who you're referring to there, though, mate. But we'll find out who you are. I suppose if you respond, we'll find out who you are referring to. Yeah, the last thing on Hull, I'm kind of like 55-45 in favour of them staying up. But it's not a very confident one at the moment. But as we know with this bloody division, there you go. So if you don't like bad language, I've just sworn anyway. But if you don't, but with this goodness forsaken division, it changes every damn week. So we shall see what happens with that. So yeah, but big couple of game. Oh, there we go. I was referring to Hull based on discussion. Ah, okay, fair enough then, mate. Fair enough. Yeah, but where we shall see. Norwich are just strippers done.
Hasn't helped Hull, to be fair, that they've got like I think there was a crazy stat at one point where they had more ACL injuries to first team players than they did home wins. I'm sure that's changed, but like Mohamed Baloumi, Liam Miller, Elliot Matazau, and I think there was one more, um, Louis Barry, I think as well. Like they all
Yeah,
had knee injuries, three of them ACL injuries, all pretty much season over, and obviously those are four quality players for Hull. Louis Barry was like sought after massively in January, so for them all to be injured, not available for majority of the season, that hasn't helped Tim Volter, and it hasn't helped Ruben Sellers either. So yeah, that could be something that bites them in the backside come game week 46 at Fratton Park.
we'll see how that pans out then. Hopefully for them, from their perspective, Pompey are already safe by then, because then I could see Hull potentially going there and getting your customary away win. Um, quickly, weekly still chair says how many injuries do they currently have? Based on what Annie's just said, it sounds like a hell of a lot. So, yeah, right. Let's move on to a couple more games. Stoke Sheffield Wednesday. Two talking points for me. Well, actually, probably three. One, good win for Stoke. It edges them closer to safety, and obviously, at some point, we've had this discussion about Stoke till we're bored to death of this, but at some point, someone's got to go out there and establish an identity and start getting them playing to their potential. Because for Stoke, since they got relegated to never be in the top half of the Championship, is a disgrace, to be frank. The second one is Sheffield Wednesday. Look, I mean, it's Danny Rowe looks a complete and utterly beaten man at this point, and we know what the problems at Sheffield Wednesday are. We know who about the Muppet at the top, Defon Chansiri, who needs to sell up, but we've said this for ages, so we need to start seeing it actually happen for them. Because for me, I'm convinced Sheffield Wednesday have the fan base and have the infrastructure and everything else to challenge for promotion to the Premier League, but they're not going to do that with the moron that they have in charge at the moment. And the problem for them is if Danny Rowe goes and they replace him poorly in the summer, then I really could fear for Sheffield Wednesday next season. And then the third bit, probably one of the weirdest goals I've ever seen a team score. And I don't know if you've seen it, Annie, but basically Stoke's second goal, which is where the Sheffield Wednesday keeper, how can I describe it? He gathers the ball from a throw in or a set piece. I can't remember which one it was. He then goes to kick it. It bounced. It then, as he's kicking it, it then bounces off Ben Wilmot and just bounces into the and rolls into the back of the net. So Ben Wilmot probably has a goal to his name that he knew absolutely nothing about. Bless him. And I feel for those Chef Wed fans because that sort of sums up the mood around Sheffield Wednesday at the minute. But for Stoke, it is it's a considerable step towards getting safety. And in theory, and again I say this in theory, Stoke have obviously got to their annual 16th place because they're literally in 16th at the minute. Although the way Chef Wed's going, I wouldn't be surprised if Stoke finish above them. But with Stoke, like we said, Mark Robbins on paper is a good manager at this level, but we obviously need to see what. But again, lather, rinse, repeat. We need to see what this summer brings. We need to see at what point. I think Jonathan Walters. I think it's John. Is it Jonathan Walters is their sporting director or a director of football? We need to start. See, he needs to start delivering some successes because when we talk about patience with Norwich, patience with Stoke will be probably even more thin on the ground. Really,
I mean, it's really weird with Stoke because every time you think, right, okay, they're getting going, they do something like stupid, like sacking Steven Schumacher, or it just doesn't work. Um,
Appointing
I
Pelic.
putting him in else's patch, yeah, exactly. I don't know. I don't know with Stoke. They've had some. They've had a good run of form. Alternatively, they've also had some relatively nice fixtures. Obviously, you've got to beat what's in front of you, but still, some relatively nice fixtures.
Yeah.
And their home form has really improved recently as well in the Mark Robbins. They've beaten a Blackburn side completely out of form at that point. QPR at home again, meh. Preston away, man, they drew that. Uh, Late equaliser for Luton at Stoke. They won away at Cardiff, which was the game. I think that was the big game, and that was the one they needed to win, and they did. And that pretty much sealed it. And yeah,
Yeah.
beating Sheffield Wednesday at home again. Sheffield Wednesday sort of very much out of
Pretty
form.
much on the beach as well at the minute.
Yeah, on the beach as well. So I think that was important that Stoke had this good run of form because their next two games leading up to the trip to Pride Park is very tricky. They go to Ellen Road tomorrow and they play Sheffield United at home. So in that context, much needed. I think at 50 points, I think Stoke are safe. I think
Yeah, I'd agree.
there's something utterly drastic would have to happen. They're 7 points ahead with 3 games to go. Yeah, that they're. I'd think no one below them is gonna win 3 games in a row. So I think with the traffic, with the points differential, I think Stoke are safe.
Well, they can party finishing 16th again. We'll see after we took it off them last season. You got any quick words on Sheffield Wednesday? Or is it just more or less repeating the same old things we've been saying for God knows how long?
Danny Rose said after the game that this squad is going to be in massive trouble next season, and I can't help but agree with that. I think he's got them performing.
Especially if he leaves as well.
I mean,
Which it looks like it's a given, to be honest.
I'm not being funny. You don't say stuff like that if you're not leaving.
Well, yeah.
So
Imagine after all that, he's moved to, say, Southampton or whoever it is he's going to. Doesn't happen now.
yeah, that'd be Michael Beale esque. That would be.
Oh, God. Oh,
But
don't remind me of that moron.
but yeah, I mean Wednesday. Oh God, they've fallen off a mountain since that comeback win at Norwich.
It's a good thing they're 10 points clear of the bottom three and already mathematically safe.
So it's so weird because at one point we were thinking, can Wednesday break into the top six here? Because they've got some nice fixtures and they've just gone fallen
I was convinced they
completely.
were going to be top half this season as well.
They still could be if they turn it
They
round,
could be,
but
but they need to turn around a bit of a ship, don't
yeah,
they, in order
yeah.
to do it, yeah.
Uh, I think mid-table is always going to be somewhat of the standard that Wednesday were going to finish in this season. Sorry, Danny Roy's done a brilliant job. He deserves it, and he deserves a club where there's a bit of stability. There's a bit of he's going to be backed properly, and he's going to have players,
Yeah.
quite frankly, who are good enough to be
And an owner
challenging right
who's
at the
not off
top
his
end.
nut.
Yeah, right at the top of the championship. I think he deserves that. He deserves opportunity, and I don't think anyone can spite him for leaving Wednesday in the summer. If he does, I think he's been through enough crap, quite honestly. And yeah, it's a sad state, but I think Wednesday are bang in trouble next season because I don't see this squad drastically improving. It wasn't drastically improved in the summer. It was improved. They signed some good players who have bedded in nicely, but they've just.
Yeah.
I think they're going to lose Shea Charles, aren't they? They're going to lose James Beadle. They're probably going to lose a couple of experienced players as well. I think they're bang in trouble next season Wednesday if they don't make another sort of Danny Roll esque appointment. I think things will be really difficult for Wednesday to maybe even secure their championship status.
Yeah.
And that's all
I
down
think
to
that,
one man.
yeah. Well, we know who's culpable for all this. Until he leaves, they're not going to improve. If anything, they're probably going to regress. And and it says something for Danny Rowe really because it's down to him ultimately that they're still a championship club for me. And I think a lot of Sheffield Wednesday fans would agree with that. And again, it shouldn't be like that for a club like Sheffield Wednesday. They should be deserving of better than this. But while Defon Chansiri's there. Yeah, we're just repeating ourselves. So let's move on to the next couple of fixtures. Right, we'll move on. Right, Preston. We'll get over a couple of games that involve kind of dead rubberish sort of things, and then we'll move to the playoff picture because we'll talk about our game last. Spoiler if you don't know, Annie's a Bristol City fan. I'm a Sunderland fan, and we played each other on Good Friday. So Preston 1, QPR 2. Let's quickly go through this one. Liam Lindsay? Yeah, Liam Lindsay scores on the verge of half time to put Preston 1-0 up. Michael Frey then scores in the last 10 minutes, what he thinks is going to be rescuing a point. Then Lucas Anderson says, "Hold my beer," and scores a fantastic strike to in the 93rd minute to send the QPR away end in absolute raptures, I would imagine. I think this result mathematically confirms safety for QPR. Yes, it does. And Preston, look, Preston's a weird one because for me, they've always felt like they're too far away to be sucked into it, but they're still not mathematically safe. But they won't go down from here. I think quickly for me, my 2 cents on it is great win for QPR, and I think it highlights Mswati Cifuentes, considering the start they've had, considering the experience they lost in the summer, has done a good job to steady QPR again. I think then you've also got Paul Heckenbottom at Preston, when I think for the large part he's still dealing with Ryan Lowe's players, if that makes sense, who are adapted to playing Ryan Lowe's certain style of play, but at the same time has delivered them a good cup run to the FA Cup quarter final and got knocked out by Champions League. Well, what were Champions League side Aston Villa at that point. So
Champions League quarter finalist Aston Villa.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, I think it's safe to say both of them are just kind of heading towards the summer now, I think.
Yeah, big summers for both of them. Both going to lose some experience, but QPR going to lose Ronnie Edwards. Yeah, I mean it's a bit of a nothing game, but both sides are
Lucas
pretty
Anderson
much there.
didn't agree with that.
It's an unbelievable finish, but we have had some unbelievable goals this round, this game week. So
Yeah,
I don't know if he actually gets. There might be a debate that he doesn't actually get goal of the week. I don't know.
deserves to
But
be
yeah,
up
I
there.
think
Mind, it's a cracking goal.
no, it's a sensational goal, especially with the timing of it as well. So definitely in the conversation. Yeah, both sides are just looking forward to the summer, aren't they? QPR are mathematically safe. Preston not quite, but they'll get there. They'll get there. Yeah. They both of them are just there.
I like it, just there, sort of going along mid-table. I suspect QPR will probably be slightly happier with their season than probably what Preston will be at this point, but obviously both will have interesting summers ahead, as you've said. Right, the last game before because then we've got 4 more games. Hang on, we're going through that. 1, 2, yeah, we've got 4 games left to talk about. So we'll kind of get back right. So the last section, we'll kind of go towards the playoff race really, because the next couple of games are involving teams that are probably were in it, but are probably out of it now. The first one's at Ewood Park. Blackburn 4, Millwall 1. This was not a result, or certainly a scoreline that I saw coming. Obviously, Millwall, I think since they'd lost to Sunderland, had beaten Portsmouth, had beaten Sheffield United, had beaten Middlesbrough within that run-in. And then they end up losing 4-1 at Blackburn. So I'll ask you on this, from a Millwall point of view, what on earth happened?
The championship, everyone. I don't know. I obviously we were playing simultaneously, so I walked into the concourse, and I look at all the other scores with quite detail, a little bit of intent, and
I
I'm
wonder
going,
why.
please win, and I was like, Blackburn won, and I was like, yeah, and then I was like, they scored 4 past Millwall, crazy, but yeah, welcome to Championship. Blackburn have, after being the worst team the world has ever seen, are now prime Barcelona. They've won 2 in a row, and they've won some tricky games as well. They've gone to Kenilworth Road and won with 10 men for majority of the game.
Yeah, to be fair, that's a
and
good win.
and they've absolutely thumped Blackburn here as well, and quite convincingly as well, I might add. Millwall quite sort of toothless a little bit up top, and obviously defence has gone for that one as well. So are Millwall out of it? Not mathematically, obviously, still 6 points, but they've got a much inferior goal difference. Obviously, this game hasn't helped.
Even
But
before then, though, they would have had a massively inferior one, wouldn't they?
yeah. I think it's pretty much a 7-point gap, isn't it, to Coventry? and an 8,
It's a
pretty
six
much an
point.
8,
Well, yeah. Sorry,
pretty much,
ignore
pretty
me.
much.
Ignore me.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think it's gonna be really difficult for Millwall. Same applies for the team right above them, which we will talk about in a minute. But yeah, Millwall. I think what was a really promising 3-game run, and obviously beating Middlesbrough in a head-to-head. You'd expect to beat Pompey at home with Pompey's away record.
But Sheffield United away as well.
Sheffield United away is obviously that's a massive upset and a massive result. Um, so they felt like they put themselves in a really good position, and it's just kind of just fallen off a little bit. So I think Millwall couldn't afford any slips, and unfortunately they have had one. So and they've also been a little bit unlucky with Bristol City winning, with Coventry winning, with Middlesbrough winning, which is just spread it out that little bit further as well. So yeah, really unfortunate. They put themselves in a nice position. They were within sort of striking distance, but they couldn't afford any slip ups, especially within the few number of games to go.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it certainly looks like a bit of an ask now, really. Although I would say for next season, depending how backed Alex Neil is in the summer, I wouldn't be surprised if they amount a playoff challenge next season. But that all depends on what recruitment he's given and what tools he's given, basically. Because he's
They've
proven now.
already they've
Sorry.
already had a shift in recruitment, haven't they? In January, where they signed a load of young players, and I was like, in January sounds like a summer
Well,
job,
they
but
sold. Is it Essay? They sold to.
yeah,
Is it
Ramirez,
Crystal? Is it Crystal Palace they sold him to? Or am I making that up?
Palace.
Yeah, I thought so. So I'd be interested to see how much money of that will be left over for the summer, where because this is the market of the Championship now, you have to be able to sell properly in order to be able to reinvest it. So I'm keen to. I'll be intrigued to see what happens with Millwall in the summer. Right, which game should we? We've got 2 games left before we talk about ours. Which one should? So what you pick? Should we go Coventry, West Brom next, or Middlesbrough, Plymouth?
Let's talk Coventry West Brom, I think, because I think that's pretty significant for West Brom, and that again in a same number of points as Millwall now, aren't they? So
Yeah.
I think with the run they're on, the negative momentum they're carrying, with the manager under pressure, I think that's fair to say. Tony Mowbray is under pressure. And quite frankly, the pretty poor run of form they've been on since Carlos Corberan left, where they've been performing like a bottom half side pretty much since the start, after their hot start, where they were top of the league after 6 or 7 games. They've been performing like a bottom half side, and that's caught up with them, I think. And with other teams just kind of gradually moving up and trending upwards, like Coventry, like Middlesbrough, maybe less so Middlesbrough, but Bristol City, I think that's caught up to West Brom, and I think that's that level of poor form being sustained for that long has effectively killed their season.
Yeah, I think that the problem ultimately West Brom have had is in recent weeks they've lost head-to-heads as well. If we're talking about hold down the bottom with head-to-heads, to an extent Sunderland, although it wasn't quite a head-to-head, but it's obviously because they Tony Mowbray against his old club. It's all the narratives that go with it. They actually played pretty decently that day, but again they were good in both boxes, but in between both boxes, sorry, but in both boxes they weren't particularly great, particularly in the offensive one. Probably the biggest one for me that maybe psychologically might have had an effect was losing to Bristol City, where that was a last minute winner, even with 10 men. If you come out of that with a point, then that could have been something for them. And then this game, truthfully, I'm not surprised Coventry won. I think there are going to be question marks over Tony Mowbray. I've said all along that I think Tony Mowbray, yes, okay, he got Sunderland into the playoffs 2 years ago, and I love Tony Mowbray, but I'm not convinced he's the type of manager that will have enough to get you over the line and get you promoted, essentially. But I'm with you. I think similar to Millwall, I think West Brom's again mathematically not out of it. There is a better chance with West Brom because of the vastly different goal difference, but I think that they needed to win this game. Really, for me, if they were going to have any realistic hope of getting into the playoffs, and I think this result's kind of just put that out of it, really, for me. But on the flip side, for Coventry, motoring along, really. Obviously, we had the howler for the second goal. I can't remember who it was that made the mistake.
John Swift.
John Swift, that's it. Yeah, John Swift. I don't know what he's trying to do there. Where basically Matt Grimes gets gifted a goal. Jack Radoni obviously finishes a good passing move for the first one. I think for me personally, obviously we'll talk about Middlesbrough Plymouth in a minute, but I think Coventry have got 1 foot in the playoffs. I know mathematically they're still 3 points above Middlesbrough and they've got them to play, But I just think there's something with Coventry. I think they'll get it over the line and get in there. And this, whatever West Brom's fortunes at the minute, this was a massive win for them. And again, sums up the Championship. Dominated Hull, don't win, then go and beat, no problem, go and beat West Brom. So, but yeah, huge for Frank
Yeah,
Lampard for Coventry.
that head-to-head on the final day. Looks very, very tasty if it is to be
I know what
similar.
you're hoping for. You're hoping that's the race for 6th.
Mate, would I be? We'll talk about it later. But yeah, Middlesbrough have a better goal difference than Coventry. Obviously, with Middlesbrough, they score an obscene amount of goals, so that's not much of a surprise. It'll be interesting. I don't know, actually. I would kind of agree they've got one foot in the playoffs. I think, obviously, if the situation is the same, and I can see it being quite similar to what it is right now on the final day, with Coventry going to Luton and going to Plymouth before playing Middlesbrough at home. I can see it being 3 points, and maybe even less, possibly, because Middlesbrough have got nicer fixtures on paper than Coventry do, and arguably even us. So yeah, I would, and obviously it's a one-off game, which anyone can, if you win, you're there. It's basically a shootout. So when teams plays, when a derby game comes around, people say, "Oh, form goes out the window." Could you say similar about this as well? So, I don't know. I think Coventry are probably the strongest team in there out of these three teams in terms of quality, in terms of just being a good side. But I don't know about one foot in the playoffs. I think they'll get there.
Have they
I
got
think
3 or 4 toes in it then?
Yeah, probably. I think they've got a few toenails. They're probably trying to grasp it, trying to get in there. They're just being held back by Tommy Conway and his
Yeah, we'll get onto that in a second.
It's great. His great theatrics.
He said,
If I
not
may
so
say so
bitterly.
myself. If I say not so. If I say so myself.
You're going full Jose Mourinho. I prefer not to speak, because if I speak, I'm in big trouble. But anyway, well, all right, let's get on to it then. The last and penultimate game we're talking about, Middlesbrough 2, Plymouth 1. This was quickly Finazars. Sorry, right, we'll start that again. Finazars ended up putting Middlesbrough ahead. What was it, within the first 12 minutes of the game?
Of course he did.
Then you have Mustafa Bundu, who capitalised on a... Well, actually, both goals were kind of messy defensively, but Mustafa Bundu manages to capitalise on a pretty bad defensive mistake by Middlesbrough to equalise. The game looked like it was petering out for a draw, which I must say at that point would have been a massive result for Plymouth, by the way, away from home, because they would have put a good point closer towards 21st. Then the referee had other ideas. Where'd you start with this?
You can't touch
This
people
has
in the
to be
box
probably the most
anymore.
ridiculous decision of the week. I don't, for the life of me, understand how a penalty is given for that, and Joe Edwards gets sent off to add insult to injury on that. What on earth happened there?
Look, I'm not disagreeing with the fact there's contact with Conway. And I
Contact
think
doesn't always equal foul, though, does it?
exactly contact's not. And I know
Contact sport, literally.
it's late in the game. It's a must win for Middlesbrough. On by hook or by crook, you win the game. You're in the penalty box. You feel a slight nudge in your back. You feel a toenail. You feel a little fingernail in your back, and you're going right. Better go down. Hit the deck.
I mean, fair play, it worked.
It worked somehow. And I admit I think Tommy Conway is a great player. I think he's a great goal scorer, but that's not that's above him. And I understand the sportsmanship aspect of it as well. So if my team did it, I'd obviously be thrilled that we got the decision and we got the penalty that ultimately won the game. But
I would be if we could bloody score them.
a little part of me would be going, I am not sure I quite like how we did that. But yeah, it got Middlesbrough the win. It pretty much robbed Plymouth of a very valuable point. which would have put them again within striking distance. But now with their goal difference, their vastly inferior goal difference, it's now 4 points effectively. But if you add on a point, you're one win away. So
Yeah,
a massively damaging, I'd say, 92nd minute decision by the referee for Plymouth, and massively boosting for Borough. And again, Borough, they beat the good teams. Sorry, they beat the sort of teams you'd expect them to beat. But when they play a Millwall, a Leeds, or a team in good form, or a team just kind of in and
let's say
around
a
them, like
Coventry on the last day, for example.
Coventry, they've lost twice to Bristol City. They've lost twice to Sunderland. They've I know they got 2 draws against Burnley, to be fair, but they've lost twice to Leeds. Uh,
I know
they
what you
lost,
mean in general, though. When they come up against teams near the
yeah,
top, they don't tend to deliver as well, do they?
especially in head to heads as well. And they
Yeah,
won at West Brom, but I think that's the only win they've had against a side like in and around
they
them.
did beat to do double over West Brom. To be fair,
Did
two
they?
draws against Burnley. They beat Sheffield United at home. They
Yeah,
did
yeah.
double over West
Okay.
Brom, but I get what you mean. I think in the business end of the season, they've tended to come up short whenever they come up against anyone that's like sort of up there, basically. So for me, this was massive. I think if Middlesbrough hadn't had won this game, then I think Coventry would have had a foot and a half in the playoffs. And same with Bristol City as well. We'll get onto the Bristol City Sunderland game in a minute. But yeah, I mean, take out the fact that the penalty decision was mental, was absolutely ridiculous. Tommy Conway still had to score it, and it was a pretty decently taken penalty. It's one that keeps their hopes alive. I would fancy Middlesbrough to win their next two, and I know Middlesbrough away from home in particular aren't great, but you look at the mood around Sheffield Wednesday. In fact, Sheffield Wednesday and Norwich. Look at the mood around both of them in a minute. Michael Carrick should be saying to his players, "These two clubs are down mentally down on their knees at the minute. If we can't capitalise and win both games, then we don't deserve to be in the playoff conversation." There's still question marks for me over whether Borough can deliver when it matters, but nevertheless, it's a win, and that's all you can ask for at this stage. And again, for Plymouth, I mean, you feel for their fans. The amount of that would have been their second longest journey this season, if I'm not mistaken. And to come away empty-handed because of a mental decision like that from referee, it's to quote John Coleman, "I'm rapidly falling out of love with football." To be honest with you, you know, I can imagine their reaction would be something akin to that. But yeah, you know, I think that there's
Yeah, just horrible for them, isn't it? I mean, does it kill Plymouth?
it doesn't kill them, but it
Mm,
certainly damages their. Look, don't get me wrong. I know because imagine if say they got relegated. Let's say. Who have they got? They've got Coventry at home. They've got Leeds at home on the final day. And I think is it Preston
yeah, they've
away
got
next week.
Preston away. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So let's say, for example, if they. This is going to be horrible to say this, but imagine if they get relegated on goal difference. That 1 point. That 1 point. This is where I've gone. Look, Annie's in a group. He knows I was ranting about the referee during our game on Friday, but take the Sunderland thing out of it for a minute. I've said all along, Championship referees across the board are terrible, and I know that nothing will probably be done about it, but that's quite sad. We need to have, whether it's because they need help with VAR, whether it's because they need help with the officials or lines official or the linesman, women, whatever you want to say. You know, it's getting ridiculous here now because Plymouth. This result could massively damage Plymouth, and I know that they were already bottom. I know they were already in a position where they were chasing, but I think that point could have been huge for them away at Middlesbrough. Even if Middlesbrough haven't been great, that's a point away at a playoff chasing side. That could have been ginormous for Plymouth, and I think that's mentally going to take quite a toll on them. And I know it might sound ridiculous, but I've said all along. For me, the referees, the state of refereeing in this country needs to be really looked at. But I don't know.
The
Anything to add
positive for
before we move?
the positive for Plymouth is just quickly is they're missing Nikola Katic and they're missing Maxim Talaverov, who have been two kind of mainstays at centre back for them. So they're missing two of their better centre halves. Weirdly for Plymouth, they have quite a few really good centre backs, and they've improved quite a bit actually defensively under Miron Muslic. In fairness to them, with Connor Hazard behind them. Um, so to still put up a fight, to still sort of beat Sheffield United, to still come effectively, pretty much be very deserving of a point at Middlesbrough. Uh, Really impressive actually from Argyle, the kind of turnaround they've had, and if you look at their form, they've been patchy. which normally for a team you point to them and you go, that's a bit of a
Yeah. The problem
bit of a
was these were also
flaw.
employed. Wayne Rooney was employed by Plymouth early
Yeah,
on in the season, and I think that's put them on. That's set them quite far back, hasn't it?
yeah. What I was going to say was they've been quite patchy in terms of win loss draw, something like that,
Mm.
or loss. Yeah, so last 3 games have been win loss win. Sorry, win. I can't speak. Loss win draw, loss win. Um, and normally you'd look at a team and go, that's a flaw. But when you're in a relegation battle, being inconsistent and winning the odd game is actually quite good. Is actually quite a good return. So Plymouth have improved in that department. They've got slightly better away from home as well in terms of performances, and they've drawn at Watford. They won at Pompey. Should have got something here. So yeah, if this is the sort of hallmark in terms of this is the point where Plymouth season kind of goes because of a loss and a horrendous refereeing decision, and the morale and the psychology kind of goes, um, then it's a real shame because Argyle have put up a fight. And to be fair to Plymouth, they're well known for that, and that's massive. That's a massive credit to them.
Well, let's see. But to be honest, if you look at the fixtures, I think I wouldn't put it beyond the realms of possibility that they beat Coventry tomorrow because their home record in general, they've actually caused some good results at home. Even if you just look at Liverpool in the FA Cup, they beat Sunderland at home, they beat Sheffield United at home, they've beaten West Brom at home. They've got quite a few good results against teams there. They obviously took something off Bristol City when they played on New Year's Day, I believe. So yeah, we'll see. I wouldn't put it beyond the realms of possibility for Plymouth to win tomorrow. If they're still in the fight by the time they play Leeds, then we'll see what happens. Stranger things have happened. And by then, Leeds could very well be on the beach. So we'll see. Right, here we go then. Obviously, this is part of the reason I wanted to get. I thought it would fit in that us two are talking about this. Bristol City 2, Sunderland 1. So, you take it away first. First of all, for you guys, regardless of the red card, regardless of the fact you had to play against 10 men, doesn't guarantee you're going to win. For me, you deserve to win based on the second half because you had the dominance that obviously you'd expect to, but you still had to do it. What a win for Bristol City that is.
Yeah, I think we were really good second half. I think first half was we didn't do a hell of a lot wrong out of possession. Because we didn't lose the ball a hell of a lot because we were playing against 10 men, to be fair. But obviously when you're playing against a team like Sunderland, you've got the kind of directness of Mayenda as an outlet, and then you've got the kind of the trickery of a Roberts or I was going to say trickery of a Tommy Watson, but he was kind of inefficient.
Enzo Lefebvre.
Enzo Lefebvre was playing a little bit deeper though, wasn't he?
I mean, this
Which
isn't
I
a
was,
game that would suit him, I don't think, in the
yeah, no,
circumstances of it.
yeah. He
But
wasn't
yeah,
really involved in a lot of the counter attack stuff anyway. That Sunderland did
no, he
first
wasn't.
half. But yeah, having Mayenda as an outlet massively helpful, and obviously getting that goal. When you're playing with 10 men, you need a little bit of magic, a little bit of luck, a little bit of take your moment when you get it. That's exactly what you did, and it was a fantastic goal, it was a fantastic finish. I thought after that, straight after your goal, we started to create a little bit more. We started to go, instead of going out wide to Campering or going out wide to Ross McCrory, our fullbacks, who might as well have been wingers. But we started to go inside to Max Bird, to Jason Knight, to Joe Williams, who were in and around the box, kind of just screaming for the ball and just begging for it. And Max Bird got the ball in field a couple of occasions, got the ball centre into the box. There's a moment for Campring where he had a shot which was just wide. We actually put the ball in the net after a really good save by Anthony Patterson, and then the rebound was offside. I think at half time there was a feeling of, okay, fine, let's learn our lessons from that Hull game where we drew 1-1 against 10 men. Let's learn those lessons. Let's pass the ball with a little bit more intent, a little bit faster, a little bit quicker. Move Sunderland around a little bit more. Don't let Sunderland kind of just sit in their shape, which they're. And Sunderland are a really good side, really organised side. And I said as much in the vlog at half time where I said they're not going to take the bait. They're not going to push players out. They're not going to leave spaces in behind, which is what we were trying to do for a lot of the first half. And I think we realised that at half time, and Manning must have told them and kind of gone, lads, just play, just move the ball quicker, just make runs in behind, just push players forward. And that's exactly what we did, and we forced two really good goals. The first one is it's just sensational. I mean, Rob Dickey can hit one. He hasn't hit one. He has scored a relatively good number of goals for a centre back for us, but a lot of them have been from set pieces, from sort of tap ins as a result of set pieces.
Cheers, he picks this game to do this, but yeah, it
One
was
of
a
them,
fantastic hit.
oh my god! I looked at it and I know Rob Dickey can hit one because he did quite a few times for QPR and he scored quite a few sort of long range efforts along the floor, beating quite accurate shots, and he did it for Oxford as well. This one, I was just like, hold on a minute, what is that? He's taken a touch.
Liam
The
Manning, what have you
clearance has
given this
gone
man at half time?
ridiculous. I mean, there was 10 minutes of pressure, and I was like, right, we need to score. We need to score now, otherwise the tempo will go a little bit. We'll lose a bit of confidence, and we'll probably we might get a point. But we capitalised, and it was a fantastic finish. Ball goes to the edge of the box. He doesn't just hit it. He takes a touch. He sets himself. He uses whoever, I think it's Chris Rigg in front of him. It might have been someone else. He uses him as a shield. Just bends it. I've
Couldn't
not
have hit
seen a
that any
goalkeeper
better, to be
just
fair,
stand
could
there.
he?
And I saw Anthony Patterson as soon as he hit it, and Patterson's eyes. He looked at the ball and he just kept going like this, and I was like, he has not got a chance in hell of getting that, and that's going in. I was like, right, okay, go and win this now against 10 men, and that's exactly what we did. Again, more pressure, more chances, more territory, and unlike the first half, Sunderland didn't really have an attacking threat. Whereas in the first half, it felt like my end as an outlet. It didn't really feel like that. Second half, we kind of swept up a lot more. We helped ourselves defensively, and I thought we were outstanding at stopping any sort of counter attacks as well. Don't know if you disagree with that, but yeah, Ross McCrory then getting a goal, bit of an assist from Joe Bellingham. Didn't really help himself with the clearance,
No,
but
didn't, did he?
nice finish. But yeah, I think we deserved the win based on the second half
Yeah, I
and
agree.
the
You did.
second half performance. And the thing is, I've seen that quite a bit this season at home, in particular, where we've outrun the opposition. I don't know. There's been 10 men for Sunderland, but even against 11, we've done that quite a bit this season. We did it against Middlesbrough, Norwich, Watford, where we've kind of built the pressure up, and then we've just kind of overloaded the team, and it's just been a little bit too
Well, because
much.
eventually it tires the opposition out, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the style of football we play with, which is high intensity, sort of high octane stuff. You go at the opposition, and we did, I thought, extremely well second half to use the man advantage to our benefit. And sometimes teams don't do that, and teams end up not getting the 3 points against 10 men because the opposition sit in, and the opposition sort of make it really difficult for you. We learnt our lessons from that whole game, and we were, I thought, brilliant and deserving of the 3 points, especially on the basis of that second half performance. Don't know if you agree with that.
Right, well, I'll tell you what, actually, right. The one thing I have to ask you about, Trey Hume's red card. I'm asking you from your perspective. You know my thoughts on this. I can understand. My thoughts on reflection are in the immediate. What's the word I'm looking for? In the moment, in the heat of the moment, in the moment of it, Naki Wells knows what he's doing. I'm personally not a fan of players doing that, but Naki Wells, I'm thinking of it from his perspective. It's a big game for you, and I don't mean this in a condescending way, but it's because it's a bigger game for you than it is for us because we've got playoffs secured, whereas you haven't yet. I say yes because you will do. I'm convinced at some point now, but I know you won't say that, but I can say that. So I think it's obviously a big moment. I think. Do you think that's a red card? I personally don't think it is. I don't think it's as bad as a decision as the Middlesbrough penalty is, but I personally don't think there's enough in it for it to be a red card. But tell me if you missed it. You might have spotted something that I've missed, which I wouldn't be surprised by.
As I said, in the ground, and I'm literally the furthest back you can be
To be fair, you
from
are on the
that
opposite side of
position.
it, to be fair. So you would have probably had a
Yeah,
hard time
yeah.
live seeing whether it was or not.
I'm literally right at the back. So it was a little bit difficult, but I thought initially, if he's made contact, if he's made enough contact, it's a red card. Because and I know some people have said the ball was going away from goal. To be fair, I haven't had a look at whether the ball was going away from goal. Naki Wells obviously beats Luke O'Nien sort of in the air a little bit, and then he gets the ball in front of Trey Hume. Is there contact? A little bit. There is contact, tiny bit. Naki Wells is an experienced player. He's been here, done that probably multiple times in his career, and he realizes in that position, is a goal more important than a potential red card? He picks the red card, and
Well,
obviously
in
the
hindsight, he was
referee.
right to do that.
Yeah,
To be fair to him.
yeah. In hindsight, the referee, he's obviously stood at an angle. He sees a slight bit of contact, and he sees Naki Wells go down, and he goes, right, that's a foul. He's in on goal. He's been knocked off, and he's been ultimately he's denied a goal scoring opportunity. That's what the referee sees. I don't think it's a red card, and I don't think Naki Wells. I think Naki Wells, and I think it'd be hypocritical of me to say the Tommy Conway thing, a little bit of theatrics, and I think I'd be quite in the back of my mind. I'm going, not sure on that one. I think, as you mentioned, it's not as bad of a decision. I don't think it's the correct decision, and ultimately, 6 minutes in, it does
It
kind of
alters
ruin
the
the
game
game a little bit.
significantly, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but to be fair, on the flip side of that, if it is a red card if it is a red card at that point, and it doesn't matter if it's 6 minutes in or 97 minutes
Oh
in, it's a
yeah.
red card. So yeah,
Oh no, I
so I
more mean
think
yeah.
the timing
Obviously, I
of it.
more mean the fact that if the red card being given in the first place when it changes from 11v11 to 11v10 makes it a different game.
Yeah, yeah,
But I know what you mean. It shouldn't matter
yeah,
what minute it is. If it is a red, it's a red. I
yeah.
know what you mean. In principle, yeah.
I don't think it's a red. I don't think it's a red. I think the referee has got that wrong. But again, I can see why he's given it, and I don't think the angle he's kind of stood at helps him in terms of whether or not he's made a clear judgment in terms of is there sufficient contact for Naki Wells to go down like that, and well, ultimately does Trey Hume. There wasn't. I was a bit surprised actually seeing the replay that Trey Hume didn't sort of kind of I won't say
Appeal it.
complain, but sort of argue his case. Yeah, sort of argue his case a little bit more. And I don't think many Sunderland players did, which is a bit surprising with
To
hindsight.
be honest, we generally
But
don't do
yeah,
that, and I think we need to start learning to do that. If I'm totally honest, but yeah.
yeah, I don't think it's a red card. In short,
Well, you know my thoughts on it, but I'm generally the thing is for me, right? I think, like I said, I'm someone who hammers the referees quite a lot, and I've hammered them on my channel when we've won games. So it's not like a bitterness thing when we do lose. What I would, but like I said, if I was to assess it from a Sunderland perspective, I think in the first half I thought we carried the bigger threat with 10 men, which is quite weird because I didn't expect that. Obviously, a lot of it, mainly 95% of that, was through Eliza Mayenda. Obviously, the second half pretty much can't add to anything that you said because I agree. I think Bristol City were a lot quicker, and I noticed it within the first 5 minutes. I was like, "Oh crap! These guys are like instead of taking like one touch, pass, one touch, so on. It was literally one touch, bang down the wings, and straight away the speed and intensity had quickened significantly. And I think that equalising goal helps you straight away at the start of the second half because it means that you're not struggling. Obviously, you have to score another goal to win, but it's not a case of I'm still losing, have to break a team down in a low block and all that tedious stuff that you'll have had to put up with before. So that was massive for you. I think Eliza Mayenda's goal is absolutely outstanding from an individual perspective. When he basically has to beat probably a third of your team in order, from your point of view, it's probably poor to concede that. But I just couldn't. But Eliza Mayenda is proof of what I've been saying about some of the players we've signed. That I think some of our fans have been far too quick to write them off, and I think this is an example of someone who we paid. I think was it €1 million, which is like £850,000 for this guy, and that's his eighth goal of the season. And the athleticism and the speed and the composure in the box to get in between because there was like literally 2-3 men around him and he still manages to keep the composure to finish the chance off was incredible. And I think first half of the effort we put in we deserve to be in front, not because we didn't obviously have a lot of the territory in the play, but we were never going to. Once we went down to 10 men, that's it, the game's totally different. But second half, I do think the end scoreline and result was fair. I do think you did do enough to warrant getting the 3 points. I think personally for me, like I said, I agree that I don't think the Trachea red was a red, but there you have it. It's not Bristol City's problem. You've got to go and beat what's in front of you in that regard. And I think I'm proud personally of the way we didn't fold like we could have done. Because, for example, away at Coventry, although we weren't down to 10 men, I felt we folded that game. And I feel like while Coventry deserved to win by that scoreline, I think we are much better than getting beat by 3-0 off by getting beat 3-0 off the majority of the teams in this league, personally. But at the same time, I look at that one, I'm thinking, I watched bits of the first 7 minutes. Now, Sunderland obviously didn't, I can't remember, had too many clear-cut chances. But I thought what you were like in the second half at patches, we were somewhat like that 11v11. Not to the same level, but it did look to me like we were, I don't want to say in control, because we weren't dominating, but there was a lot more intensity about the comparison to what we were the rest of the game with 10 men as to what we were doing. And I straight away noticed that I was like, oh, hold on a minute. I mean, obviously, I was actually coming back from shopping with me auntie and my cousins, funnily enough. So I missed the first 15 minutes. But from what I did see, I was a little bit encouraged by what we were like 11v11. But obviously, that's irrelevant. We went down to 10 men and the game was different.
I have seen a lot of reaction, particularly Sunderland fans are going, from the opening 6 minutes of evidence.
And by the way, that doesn't mean we'll do anything going forward because that's just 6 minutes. I'm just commenting on what I've seen.
Yeah, no. So 6 minutes is a very small sample size.
Yeah.
What I will say to that is, there have been games this season where we haven't started on the front foot as quickly as we probably should have. West Brom at home is a case in point. Watford at home is a case in point, where we opening sort of 5-10 minutes where we haven't been at it, and then there's something just clicks at home in particular where we've just gone, right, okay, let's kind of play our football, and then we've actually gone and sort of control the game from there on. But no, Sunderland are a much better team than the teams I've just mentioned, so possibly that could have been the case. What are your thoughts on the sort of the reaction from both sides? To be fair, both sides after the game, because obviously this could be a playoff game in a few weeks' time. Because I've seen the sort of reaction from Sunderland fans going, right, if that's 11v11, we probably win that game, and we probably win the playoff semi-final quite easily.
Yeah.
And whereas we're going, well, the red card is obviously part and parcel of football. Obviously, probably won't happen in the semi-final, but
with referees in this league, I wouldn't be sure.
In a potential semi-final, very unlikely. And also we've got 4 points. We've taken 4 points off Sunderland this season. We haven't lost. So if that was to be replicated, we'd be the ones going to Wembley. But I can see both sides of it.
I think my opinion on it is, well, let's put it this way. I'm going to read the comment you sent to me. It was literally probably about an hour after the game. Because don't worry, there's no bad language for anybody watching. But basically, I was sort of going along the lines of, see, Annie, I told you that you're going to get playoffs. And I said it for a couple of weeks, actually. He said, however, I would not like to play Sunderland in the playoffs. Jesus, you're a good side. This is the bit that caught me. With 10 on the break, you were better than half the teams that have come here 11v11, and that's a bit scary. Now, to be honest, either we cause quite a few problems with 10 men, or teams with 11 men have been utterly wank and haven't caused you any problems at all. It's probably one of the two. But, look.
Or we've been much better than them.
Well, yeah, that is also very true, to be fair. Not to discredit you. Look, if this was... I think for me personally, if I was going to say who I would prefer to have, because I think it's going to be you and Coventry in there, the only question for me is who we're going to play in the semis. Out of the two of you, I would rather play Bristol City, but that's not a... We're definitely going to go through. One, playoffs don't work like that. And two, if you finish fifth, you finish fifth for a reason. You've obviously finished fifth. Yes, you can say, oh, they're the least inconsistent of everyone below them, but you've still had to do the job to get fifth in the first place. My view is, if this is the playoff game, the first leg for me would go a long way to not deciding, but it would go some way to indicating what way that the wind could blow, so to speak. And I'm someone who believes that when everyone goes on about this, our home leg second is a massive advantage. Well, it is if you use it, but it all depends. If, say, for example, this was the playoff semi-final and we went to your place first and lost, then I'm like, well, equally, then the pressure's on for the second leg, even more so. And look, I mean, I've seen plenty of examples before where the away team has won the first leg, but then gone on to lose the second leg at home because of complacency, because of nerves, or whatever else it is. My personal instinct is that if we played you because there was a comment that replied to your tweet saying, "Oh, worst team in the playoffs, Sunderland will batter you." That comment was clueless, in my opinion, because that's not how playoff games work. My personal feeling is if we met you in the playoffs, I think we would have enough to get past you over 2 games, but it would be far from certain at all. The biggest margin we would beat you by is 2 goals, I think, at biggest. By the way, because look, your home record's phenomenal. Your home record, I think, is it only outside the top 4 you've got the best home record? Is that right?
Well, I think we surpassed Sheffield United before they played.
Oh, all right then. Either way,
So
then that's good
so we're
company, though.
pretty, yeah,
All right, in which case
right up
you're
there,
amongst the
yeah,
top 5 best home records. Then, if you want to look at it that way, and that's clearly there
yeah.
for a reason. I think personally, if we got you in the playoffs, I think we would edge past you. But it's not beyond the realms of possibility you could beat us over 2 games because you can say about because I could sit here and go, oh, we're so many points ahead, blah 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 blah. In playoff games, once again, that means absolutely nothing. It means nothing. It's about the 2 games themselves on the 2 days themselves. Here's one then. How confident would you be of getting past us over 2 games if this was fifth v fourth in the playoffs? Or how
Not
optimistic
confident.
is probably a better way of putting it.
I think it's really weird, but I completely agree. I think a lot. If this was a playoff game, I think a lot would ride on that home leg at Ashton Gate, because that if we are to win a game, it would be there. We won't win at the Stadium of Light. It'll be nigh on impossible, I think.
Well, that game's always a
Uh,
draw, so yeah.
yeah, I mean, look, I think if we start out with an intensity, with an aggression, with a sort of no fear attitude, because ultimately, well, Sunderland have been here two years ago. They were here. You guys were here in the playoffs, weren't you? So you finished sixth that season. So you were kind of in our position a little bit
Yeah.
when you faced Luton. We'd go into this going right. We've not been here before. Don't know what's going on. No idea how this works. Let's just go out there and try and win and play our football and just kind of blow you away. I think a little bit. We're again kind of saw this a little bit on the weekend on Friday. Sorry, where we kind of blow you away. We try and blow you away with our running. Knight, Bird, Williams, all of them. If we take a healthy lead, and what I mean by healthy lead is 10 goals, three, two,
Preferably a 15
three,
goal lead.
three
It's fine.
Yeah, that would be nice. But yeah, no, if we take a healthy lead to the Stadium of Light, or just any sort of lead to the Stadium of Light, I think if we can just make it stodgy, if we can just make it disgusting, like just a horrible game up there, and I know that sounds a horrible thing to say, but if we can just make
No,
it,
but you would want to do that, wouldn't you? You know.
yeah, against the team who are no, I'm not. I don't think there's any shame to admit it. Better than us in terms of quality, in terms of players, and sort of technical flaw. Is I think we've got players who are better than us. I think so. We've got to make it. We've got to make it the game that suits us. Obviously, we're a footballing side as well. We've got a manager that wants to play that way, but we are also adaptable. A little bit like Sunderland, we can be adaptable. We can sit in. We can play. We can do a little bit of everything. I think we have to take a lead to the Stadium of Light. I think if we have any hope of getting through, we can't rely on like extra time or penalties or anything like that, because it's going to be
No, no,
uh,
no. If it goes to penalties, you're through. Congratulations. We don't score
no. I don't
penalties.
think we haven't won a penalty shootout in a while, so I don't know the last
You
one
know
we
the
lost.
meme? Is it the meme where it goes 2 retards fighting? That's literally going to be both our teams if it's a penalty shootout. No, we don't want to go through. You go through. It's fine.
there was the penalty shootout at Nottingham Forest last season in the FA Cup after we beat West Ham, and we played really well over 180 minutes, and it went to penalties, and we missed so many big chances in extra time because Forest were playing their like reserve team or something. We kept missing chances, and they won the penalty shootout. Um, and then a couple of years before that, we lost. This is embarrassing. We lost a penalty shootout at Forest Green Rovers. That was pretty bad. Yep, that that
I
that was
mean, to
that
be
was
honest, we've lost twice in a row to Mansfield Town, so I'm not going to say no.
But yeah, I don't think we've had a particularly great penalty shootout record. Not one from the top of my head, anyway. But yeah, I think if we were to get through, we'd have to take a lead. We'd have to win the game at Ashton Gate. But I think that's and if we play Sunderland, that is if we play Sheffield United,
Yeah.
Burnley, Leeds, whoever the hell it is. Right? I think we have to win Ashton Gate. I don't think there's any sort of two ways about it. The home form, so the gradient and away form, I think is quite simple. I think the message is simple: win at home in front of a
Make
raucous
it as ugly
Ashton
as
Gate,
possible away.
make it horrible, make it disgusting. Do hire Tony Pulis for one game. I don't care. Do whatever you want. Um, just
Get
just make
Prime
it
Big Sam back.
just make it absolutely horrendous for the opposition. Don't give them an inch in terms of rhythm, patterns, whatever. Um, yeah, just do your best to just stifle them completely. And I thought we did that to a large part on Friday, in terms of stifling Sunderland. In the second half in particular, that is, less so in the first half. But yeah, if we were to play each other, I think the games would look quite similar to what it did at the Stadium of Light, where it was quite slow, a little bit sort of stodgy. Um, both teams going at it, trying, but kind of cancelling each other out a little bit, and um, it will be very tight, I think. And that's again, that would be if we play each other, if you play Coventry, if we play Sheffield United, if we don't get in at all, this could be all an irrelevant conversation for all the
But it won't be because you'll get there.
hopefully. But yeah, I think it'll be similar to the game up at the Stadium of Light than the one on Friday.
How confident? Okay, here's one. What would your mindset be going into the second leg if, say, the first leg was a draw? If we played each other, obviously.
Yeah, no, we haven't got a chance. No. I'd
You drew at our place earlier in the
obviously if
season, to be fair.
league games are
I know what you mean. It's kind of
league games are
different.
obviously massively
I know
different.
what you mean. I think the
Yeah,
thing that for me, I would be wary of if we, whether it's you or Coventry, whoever it is, that first leg, the atmosphere should be rocking, and especially for Bristol City because this is the first time
yeah.
since you've been back in the Championship you'll have
18
experienced.
years.
Well, yeah, exactly. But like you'd have. I think with Bristol City because you've had constantly mid-table. Apart from I think where you had 2017, 18, or 18, 19, I think you were close to bridging into the playoffs, if I
Yeah.
remember rightly. But correct me if I'm wrong there. But since then, in particular, it's been kind of like steady mid-table. I think Ashton Gate would be like, and as you said, he should be like that, obviously. But I think Ashton Gate would be bouncing for that first leg if we play whoever you play, whether it's us or Sheffield United. And I think I'd be intrigued to see, particularly if we got there, how um, I'll be very intrigued to see how we would approach it if we got it, because I think to some degree we would have to do that. We would have to stop you from playing your sort of rhythm because obviously, look, how you played second half, I don't think you would be that dominant against us 11v11 because obviously I think the fact we were running out of energy and we had the 11v10 sort of aspect did play a massive part in that. But again, I'm not going to take anything away from Bristol City. I think, like I said, I think if we get you, I ultimately think we get past you, but I think it's because if both teams are going at it, I think our quality's that bit better. Not by miles, by the way, because obviously ultimately if we play each other, you're only one position below us. So like but I think we would have enough. I'm not saying for definite though, because again, I've been here before with playoffs. That's playoffs are rarely done by 2 goals or more. If you know what I mean, it's very very rare that actually ends up being the case. I think the only recent example I can think of is Leeds hammering Norwich in the second leg last year, and well, that the gap between Leeds and Norwich then was just like that. It was huge.
Yeah.
Whereas the gap between Sunderland and Bristol City, I think, would be there, but it would be more like that or that, if you know what I mean. It's kind of in comparison to that. It's like that. So it's yeah. I think okay. Here's one. Then. If we got each other, do you think you get through?
But I would say
Don't have to
that
blow smoke up your backside,
anyone.
by the way. If you think you do, then say it.
No. Look, we're going into this a weaker side. We're going into this probably going to be one of the lowest ever points tallies for fifth place or sixth place that ever would be in the history of the championship. But obviously playoffs, two leg affairs, two one games. If you know what I mean,
Yeah,
two
yeah.
lots of one games, one off games.
Two
And
separate game affairs.
yeah, obviously we'd have a chance, and we've shown this season that we can match Sheffield United if that's the likely playoff opponent. We can match Sunderland, um, but yeah, over the table doesn't lie. The points, the points sort of differential between Sunderland and Sheffield United, and then whoever it is in fifth and sixth, uh, will be there. Will be quite big. But yeah, I think if whoever Bristol City play, there'll be a gap. There'll be a sizable gap in the sort of quality. I think though, whoever Coventry play, I don't think there'll be that much of a gap because I don't think Coventry are a sixth place team, or they shouldn't be sort of a team that's projecting the number of points that we are or a Middlesbrough are. I think they're much better than that. I think Coventry and Sunderland are probably like that a little bit, maybe a little bit this way or that way.
Mm.
Um, I think they have a squad capable of beating Sunderland or Sheffield United or Burnley or Leeds, whoever it is. Actually, maybe not the top two.
I was going to say I
Maybe,
wouldn't include
but
Leeds in that, but the other two certainly.
yeah,
Definitely Sheffield
but
United
yeah,
in there as well.
yeah. I think they've got a chance. I think they've got more of a chance than we do. And even if we finish fifth and they finish sixth, I'd say Coventry are more likely to win the playoffs than we are. I'd say we're definitely the massive outsiders for a place in the Premier League, which sounds utterly crazy.
Yeah. Well, now you've understood why I want you to finish fifth. So maybe in that sense, losing this is kind of weird because I didn't want to lose the game, but once you beat us, I thought if that helps them, I can't say this without sounding disrespectful to you, but I know you won't interpret it this way. But I'm kind of going, right, if that helps them get fifth, then losing to them probably isn't too bad. But again, I sound so big-headed when saying that. But obviously, look, I'm not naive. Like again, if you took a two, I mean, I watched us play Lincoln in the playoffs, for example, 4 years ago. Funny enough, when we had Lee Johnson, weirdly enough, and we lost 2-0 away in the first leg, and that was just at the end of the lockdown season when we were starting to get fans back in the grounds. And then obviously the second leg at the Stadium Live, we lost 2-0. That was too much of a gap, even though we had 10,000 fans in the second leg. So I'd like to think that, the atmosphere for your place would be rocking if we played each other. And I'd like to bloody hope our atmosphere for once would actually be quite good for the game that's like the biggest home game of the season and a chance to get towards the Premier League. My gut
Don't,
says,
don't, don't
go
get
on,
it wrong. It would be our biggest game in 2 decades. Like
and
it's
fair
the
enough for
biggest
that,
game
yeah.
in 2 decades. Yeah, especially the home game.
Oh yeah, but
Because
at the
we've
end of
got
the
a
day, you've
chance of
earned the
winning
right.
it.
You've earned whether you're massive outsiders or not, you've earned the right to be there though. You're not there just to make up
Yeah,
numbers, are you? There's no point going to the playoffs going, well, we're happy with that, so we'll just not try here. Like, no,
yeah. I
I'm not
read.
naive. You should
I,
want to, and you'll agree with it. Yeah, look, you have every right to be there as much as we have, or Sheffield United have, or Coventry have, or whatever. So my gut says we're playing Coventry. I don't know what it is, but just because I feel like I can't have nice things. But I feel like I can't have nice things. And
do
again,
you want to shake? Do you want to shake hands on us v Sheffield United, and you play
okay,
Coventry?
I'll tell you what then. Bristol City Sunderland playoff final. There you go.
No, I don't. I don't want that. I just want a straight ticket to the Premier League. To be honest, I don't want to go through that. I don't know.
I
I've
can,
been
I
banging
can
on.
imagine. I can imagine
Get
for
me in
you,
those
right?
playoffs.
Bristol Rovers go down to League Two. Bristol City win the playoffs and go up to the Premier League. You're like best season
And Cardiff.
ever.
And Cardiff.
Yeah, no comment on that one. But yeah, I was saying. All right then. Where's your gut say you're going to finish before we start to wrap it up?
Sixth.
I'd
Sixth.
probably say
I
I
think
hope you
Coventry
finish.
win. I think Coventry win one of these away games. Which one it is, I don't know. I think they will want. I think they will win one of them, and I think they'll beat Middlesbrough. But I think we'll do enough.
I think
I
you'll do
think we'll
well.
pick up.
Yeah, because I think if Coventry beat Middlesbrough, then the most they can get to is 69 points, I think.
Six, uh,
Yeah, because they lose to
yeah,
Coventry,
yeah,
then they have to win two, they get to 69.
yeah.
So if that's the case, then you just need.
And we've got a slightly better goal difference, slightly, marginally.
So at most, you need a win then, basically.
Oh no,
If
sorry,
Middlesbrough
no,
lose at
we've got better
Coventry.
goal difference than we've got a better goal difference marginally than Coventry, but we've got one minus Middlesbrough, I think.
But that's what I mean. So even if say Borough won the next two and they lost to Coventry, they finished on 69. You're on 67. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. Okay. So one win does it for you then. My gut says I think you draw tomorrow, lose away at Leeds, but beat Preston on the last day. That's what I
I don't want
suspect
to
will
put.
happen.
I don't.
I know you know it doesn't. I know you say it doesn't work like that, and obviously it's Bristol City we're talking about. But yeah, I think I
Oh,
don't think Middlesbrough will do enough. I think you'll do too much to have Middlesbrough overtake you. Basically, is what I think.
I think obviously and at this point, any sort of return from these last three games that gets us into the top six is fantastic. I just don't want to go into that Preston game going, God, we have to win, or we have to win. Basically, if
But
we have
see,
to
if you're
draw
in a
and get
situation
in
on the last day though, where say you're 2 points above Coventry and 3 points above Borough, you're there then, because if Borough win,
yeah, give
then
me a point.
you finish above Coventry, don't you? Or if Coventry gets something, even if you
Yeah,
don't, then you finish above Borough. So
you
one
know,
way or another, you get there.
if that's the situation, we're definitely in, aren't we? Mathematically, because
Well,
both
yeah,
of them
exactly,
can't
because
win.
both teams can't win, can they? So
Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
if
yeah.
you're 2 points
I
above
just don't
one of
want
them, if you're 2 points at least above one of them going into that final day, you're in, basically.
mate. I don't want to put. Thing is, I think from this position, I don't want to put heaps and heaps of pressure on that Preston game because obviously, if you'd have told me at the start of the season we're 2 points above seventh or 2 points above fifth or whatever it is, and we just have to win to get into the playoffs, obviously I'd have taken that. But at this situation, I just want to be like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to put myself. Waking up that morning for that Preston game would be literal hell. Put it that way. I would. I don't think I could cope. There
Well,
would be
hopefully I'm
sick
feeling that way on
bags
May
and
24th for the playoff final, but we'll see. I know if we meet
uh,
each other, you'll be hoping otherwise, which is fair enough.
no, I don't think I'd be turning up for that one. To be honest, I think I'd be sitting at home in a dark room waiting for the game to be over. Um, but yeah, I just again, obviously, this sounds a little bit arrogant, but I don't want to put heaps and heaps of pressure on that Preston game. But again, if you said at the start of the season, win at home to Preston, you're in the playoffs, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Well, look, at the end of the day, you guys are probably you've definitely got 3 or 4 toenails at the very least in there. Ultimately, the pressure is on Middlesbrough to catch it. I think it is going to be 2 from 3 now, because obviously, was it West Brom and Millwall are 6 points behind Coventry, and in Millwall's case, effectively 7. So, and with 3 games left, so I think that's going to be pretty much it. So, but yeah, anything else like that before we end it?
Um,
I don't know. As to be
no,
fair, Bristol can't
no,
beat Leeds even confirmed by then. Leeds are going up automatically, mate. So like, I think
yeah.
it's probably not going to be relevant that. But to be fair, the other point is it Burnley or Sheffield United can be beaten in the playoffs, but as I said before, both Sunderland and Bristol City have to play to their strengths.
I think this is no disrespect to Sheffield United, by the way, but just over what I've seen from Blades and what I've seen from Burnley, I'd rather play Sheffield United. I think you would rather play Sheffield United than Burnley. I think with their defence, with their sort of their ability, they don't always turn it on in terms of an attacking lineup, but when they can, when they do, they really do, and
Yeah.
they really they take advantage. So, and they only need moments, don't they? Those wingers, those attacking players,
Well,
Brownhill.
Raksaki, for example, is one of them. Gustavo Hamer, even though he's a centre midfielder, yeah. I think
Yeah, no, good point.
if we got to Wembley and we were facing one of the 3 teams above us, if you'd asked me this a month ago, because at that point it was all over the place who was going to get first and second. If you'd asked me a month ago, Sunderland will get the playoff final and it's going to be against one of the teams above you, I'd have said Sheffield United, and I would have said it probably by quite some way, because I think Leeds are both Leeds and Burnley. I was thinking about this the other day. They're both the best team in the league at different things. Leeds are the best team in the league in terms of scoring goals, obviously dominating the opposition, suffocating the opposition. Whereas Burnley are just the bloody hardest to score past and are freakishly good defensively. And I think if we played Burnley, for example, in a playoff final, if we went 1-0 down, I'd be worried. Because then I'm going, like, I think we've got a good enough attack to score against them, but I'm like, but that's not a given. It's very hard. Whereas I think Sheffield United have individuals who can produce good moments. But I've said before loads of times, I'm not convinced by Sheffield United's performances. Granted, at this stage of the season, it matters less. But I'm not convinced in general by the performances. And I think we've got enough to get at them and cause them problems if we got them in the final. But obviously, we'll have to see. Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. So yeah, Bristol City, Coventry, and Middlesbrough. Which two out of them three will get playoffs? Will Leeds and Burnley be confirmed promoted tomorrow? Will the relegation picture change? We'll wait and see. We're going to have another hectic day in the Sky Bet Championship tomorrow. But Annie, thanks very much. Like I said, congrats again for Friday, and thanks for coming on.
No worries.
I thought after 9 games, Pompey could go winless when league season was all gone now. Power Blackmail, they proved a long way after Sammy Smodix went. Blackburn will have an interesting summer. That's the only thing I'll say on that one, for the want of a better phrase. But thank you to everybody who has been watching this. Much, much appreciated. And yeah, we'll see when we're next on. Maybe you might see Carl happy next time we're on here, because maybe Carl and Dan probably might be having a promotion party and scrapping it out for the title, as if anyone really cares about that. But they probably will tell you different. Take care, everybody, and stay safe. We shall see you next time.